10th edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television and AYV Radio on 101.7 FM. Happy Independence Day to you if you are watching us or listening to us right now. Thanks for joining us on this historic day, the 27th April 2026. My name is Alimata Judge.
And I am Victor Jones. Indeed, happy Independence Day to all, whether you're watching or listening to us from the provinces, on the capital city on channel 33, on DSTV on channel 399 from across Africa or from around the world on our socials, YouTube and Facebook. A hearty welcome to you.
On the 27th April 1961, the Union Jack was lowered and the green, white and blue flag was hoisted across the country, marking the birth of a new independent country called Sierra Leone. Sierra Leoneans in the country and around the world at the time looked straight into the future with confidence and alacrity. Hopes were high as they bade farewell to colonialism. But have those hopes been realized or dashed? Before we get into that, let us take a short commercial break and allow our sponsors to talk to you first.
More and more people are using Wakeup SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Ah, Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, like Wakeup SIM Copper.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Wakeup SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Wakeup SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe and reliable.
Sorry, Carl, go see some business partners.
You didn't give me my money, Michael. If I can say, you hear me, this people in not to Indy.
Today you pay me my money. I don't send it for let you help me send money in Ghana. 2 weeks now, you not send me money and 10 you not give me back my money. Today, give me my money.
You know ever sabi goodness in life. I send back your money, but trust me, today na the very last day I ever send money for now.
I don't need your help because I don't know so with Afri money. I dey able to send money. Now Baku Africa countries them.
With Afri money, we'll be able to send money to over 10 African countries, whether it's Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, or Kenya. If me party we know this, we not forget about this grammar right now.
Okay, una go regret. I mean, una go regret.
The best part right now, Michael, with Afri money, you dey able to send money, even if you not use app, even if you not the online, directly. All you need for do, you just a dial *161#. Pam, your money don't go. So I don't need the help again. Thief man.
Thank you.
Send money to over 10 African countries instantly with Afri Money. No stress, no excuses. Just dial *161*1*6# now. Afri Money, quick and easy.
Again, it's been a very crazy day. The joyous feeling in the air when rain falls on a sunny day. Happy, yeah. Let the stars, let the roll.
Enjoy life's little pleasures with Maltina. Maltina. Share happiness.
As mama, I always want waiting best for me picking them, especially when it comes to waiting them for eat and drink. Now this make I always they choose Sarah juice because they make come from with local foods them and nutritious and it gets less sugar than the other drinks them. Not to me say so.
We lab test show say Sierra juice gets 50% less sugar than the other drinks them na the market.
Because we mama they know waiting best for we picking them, now make we always they choose Sierra juice. Sierra juice and nutritious, a healthy and it's sweet. Sierra juice, not the taste of Salome.
You're watching and listening to a special extended edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV television, on radio and online, on the historic day of this country's independence 65 years ago. And the day has been marked by the President, Julius Maada Bio, in his broadcast to the nation. Let's take part of the speech.
My fellow Sierra Leoneans, 65 years ago, the green, white, and blue flag rose over Freetown for the first time. It rose because courageous men and women believed that this land should belong to its own people. They believed Sierra Leone could govern itself, shape its destiny, and stand with dignity among the nations of the world. Some paid everything for that belief. We honor them today by proving equal to the task they place in our hands. 65 years on, we know this truth. In 1961, we were not handed a finished nation. We were placed at the starting blocks of nation building, and the work of shaping a more mature nation remained ours. A mature nation does not hide from difficulty. It does not confuse ceremony with progress. So today, we mark this anniversary not with sentiment alone, but with measurable and undeniable evidence. In that spirit, I'd like to speak clearly about the pressures our people are carrying, about the country we are building, and the democratic duty we all share in securing Sierra Leone's future. Sierra Leoneans, the world around us remains unstable. Global conflicts, disrupted supply chains, and rising fuel prices continue to increase the cost of food, transport, fertilizer, and other essentials. Sierra Leone feels these shock sharply because we still import too much of what we consume. When the world becomes more expensive, life here becomes more difficult. Families feel it in the market, drivers feel it at the petrol station, traders feel it in the cost of moving goods. Households feel their rent and electricity bills, and they feel it in the daily strain of stretching limited income across ever-rising needs. I will not pretend otherwise. These pressures are real and felt in every district, town, and home across our beautiful country. For many families, Even the most basic purchases now require careful calculation. There is also the reality of unreliable electricity that affects households and businesses alike. A serious government must be serious about this. But honesty is not enough. A serious government must also act. Fellow Sierra Leoneans, since 2018, my government has worked to strengthen the foundations of our economy. We are stabilizing the Leone, improving fiscal discipline, strengthening domestic revenue mobilization, narrowing the deficit, and managing inflation with greater seriousness and consistency. Our program with the International Monetary Fund remains on track, and our partnerships with the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the European Union, and others continue to support stability and social protection. We have also taken immediate steps to cushion citizens from the worst of the current shocks. This includes temporary support on fuel, the building of strategic reserves of essential commodities, and expanded support for vulnerable households. That support has reached citizens through the cash transfer and cash for work programs in communities where the pressure is greatest. We remain dedicated to shielding our citizens more effectively from the external shocks that are beyond our control. These measures matter. They provide relief, but relief is not the same as transformation. The deeper response is to build an economy that produces more of what it consumes, powers itself more reliably, creates jobs at scale, and trade from a position of strength. The lasting response is production. That is the Sierra Leone we are building. And that is why, for my government, 2026 is a year of action and accelerated execution. Fellow Sierra Leoneans, over the past 12 months, we have advanced our Feed Saloon flagship program with urgency and direction. Agriculture is steadily becoming an engine of growth. Farmers are gaining greater access to improved seeds, financing, and markets. Investment in agribusiness is expanding. Our rice import bill is easing. Exports, such as cocoa, are strengthening our reserve. This progress is the result of deliberate action to shift Sierra Leone from consumption to production. This year, we will complete critical bridges and feeder roads that connect farmers to markets. We will advance the rice clusters in Tomabom and Bondapi, as well as establish the Agricultural Development Bank to unlock financing for farmers and agribusiness at scale. Our objective is simple and clear. Sierra Leonean farmers will be able to use our fertile land to feed Sierra Leonean families at prices our people can afford. Because food security is national security. A nation that cannot feed itself cannot truly call itself free. Fellow Sierra Leoneans, Our greatest resource is our people. Through the free quality education program, more children are in school today than at any other point in our national history. We have backed that expansion with improved teacher training and a renewed focus on girls' education. Because access without quality is not enough, and no country can move forward while leaving half of its talent behind. In health, we have expanded primary health care facilities, trained and deployed more health workers, and strengthened our capacity for epidemic preparedness. Government hospitals are now equipped with CT scan facilities. Modern ultrasound services are enhancing maternal care. And the newborns and reconstructive unit at Connaught Hospital is restoring hope and healing. For my government, access to healthcare will always be a right. Fellow Sierra Leoneans, no issue captures the strain on our people more clearly than energy access. Global instability, including conflict in the Middle East, has driven up petrol prices, increasing the cost of keeping the lights on for households and businesses. For too many Sierra Leoneans, unreliable electricity impedes day-to-day life. A student without light loses hours of study. A clinic that relies on a generator operates under constant pressure. A small business weighed down by diesel costs cannot grow as it should. A country that cannot guarantee power cannot industrialize as it must. That is why energy remains central to our national transformation. As recent as 2018, reliable electricity was largely limited to Freetown, Makeni, and Port Loko. Today, we are on a determined path towards universal energy access. We are making the largest investment in energy in our nation's history. The $2.2 billion United States Mission 300 Energy Compact will significantly expand electricity access, increase generation capacity, and connect hundreds of thousands of households across the country. We are strengthening and extending our national grid, improving regional power supply, and accelerating renewable energy solutions to reach underserved communities. Our goal is to reduce our dependence on volatile global fuel markets and build an energy system that serves households, schools, clinics, farms, and industry with greater reliability. Every new connection changes what is possible. It lengthens the working day. It strengthens the healthcare. It improves learning. It gives enterprises room to grow.
That was the President Julius Maada Bio addressing the nation on the occasion of the 65th anniversary of the country's independence.
The captain. I saw it. change the capital instead of one to have the capital.
About SLPP moved to establish a one-party state, which was condemned by the then opposition leader, Sheikh Stevens and his APC party.
Yet, Stevens did establish a one-party state when he got elected as Prime Minister. Many historians agree that that decision constricted the space and eroded freedom and justice. Now, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report cited happened under the one-party state as reason for the outbreak of the brutal rebel war in the 1990s.
That war killed tens of thousands of Sierra Leoneans and maimed many others. Then there was a military coup that overthrew the one-party regime. With help from the regional body, ECOWAS, led by Nigeria, and later the British government and United Nations, the war ended in 2002.
But even with the guns blazing, the people had demanded a return to democracy. Now, they voted in 1996 to elect Ahmed Tijan Kaba, who returned the country to peace and led the rebuilding and reconciliation efforts.
Since that time, there has been a peaceful transfer of power twice. But concerns are being expressed about the state of affairs in the country. Many say some of the reasons of the rebel war, as logged in the TRC report, have never gone away. Monoethnic politics, corruption, youth unemployment, poverty, and the lack of justice and basic social amenities, among others.
65 years since independence, a country endowed with natural resources still looks up to outsiders even to finance its national budget. Electricity remains undelivered. Piped water remains a pipe dream for many. Now, those who can afford it have to go to other West African countries like Ghana for medical treatment. Some even go there for education, living in the country where Western education started in the sub-region.
Many of those who are employed get a take-home pay that can barely take them home. This has led many to ask, what use are independence?
One of the key pillars of the society, the media, is said to be weak and compromised, leaving it largely unable to perform its watchdog role. Today, we will be discussing some of those issues, asking how far we have come as a nation and what should be done to ameliorate the situation. Who is guilty and who, if any, is not?
We have a star-studded panel to talk us through it all in the next 4 hours. We start off with governance in the country right from Independence Day in 1961. Here to talk us through it are Francis Gabidon, a veteran lawyer, and a widely read man who knows a thing or two about a thing or two. We also have Leonard Thompson, a political science lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone, and of course Marcella Sambas is the executive director of Campaign for Good Governance. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Wake Up Sierra Leone this morning. And happy Independence Day to you too.
Yes, good morning to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gabidon, I'd like to start with you. You've been here since, I'm sure you were here when we had our independence.
Yes.
So what was it like? What was the atmosphere like? And I'm sure you had hopes for Sierra Leone. Do you think we're where you hoped would be?
Yes, I did have hopes. I just entered the Prince of Wales School about that time, and it was quite exciting. The flag was coming up, the Duke of Kent was there, we were all at what was then the Brookfield, I think it was called Recreation Grounds. We had our flags, we were waving the flags. We had a lot of hope because at that time, 1961, not many African countries had gained independence. We were one of the few that was independent at that time. And we had a lot of head starts. We had a good civil service, a level of education was good, there was unity in the country. Oh yes, I felt and I thought that we were right ahead, yes, except Nigeria or Ghana. Sierra Leone was on the way up. That was my view at that time. I think we could have done even more. My own problem is that probably some people might disagree that if we did not have that rebel war, we might have got under the late President John Kaba. This country was growing. You could see a lot of progress in education, in health, infrastructure. Well, I think we have downplayed the destruction of this country of that period. Schools were destroyed, hospitals, lives lost. I don't know whether we have really looked at the whole question of how far we went back. I don't know how fast we're going. But I hear that we're at par with countries like South Korea, Malaysia, some of these Southeast Asian countries that they call Asian tigers. I have not been to some of them at that time, but this country was moving very fast. Even our schools, Fabi College was still attracting people from Ghana, Nigeria. The hospitals were not bad. A place like Konadugu, expatriates from other West African countries used to come and spend Christmas up the Bintumani Hills. When you tell people this, they don't believe it. They had a school at Kabbalah, which was a school for diplomats, the children of diplomats from West Africa. Sierra Leone was far ahead of many other West African countries. Then the war came, and I think the war started displaying what I would say the consequences of which we've went through. That's a short whatnot of Sierra Leone. We started well, we were doing well, we were united, people were united. We had small palavers, if you can call them. If you have a small election, say in the mountain districts, there will not be violence. If you go up the provinces, and nowadays a small thing can ignite. What has gone wrong, I don't know. I've seen the best of this country. I won't tell you my age, but I've seen the best. And now, I wouldn't say that I'm disappointed. I wouldn't say that. But this is not the Sierra Leone I thought we'd be having 65 years. I think we could have done better. Considering where we were when 1961, I was about 10, 11 years old. I was going to the Prince of Wales School. And then going to school, we were given bread and butter. When you tell people what it was like going to school, we were running to going to school. We did not have cars to take us. Now they have luxurious cars to take them, air conditioned, fine, no problem. We were walking. I used to walk from Freetown, Regent Road to Kingstown. And you dare not be late. We were rushing to go to school. The teachers were good. They were well trained. Because you see, one of the things people talk about now is that I have been in education for quite some time now, that Sierra Leonean children have gone back. No, but our teachers are not as great. In the Prince of Wales School, I'm sorry to get you, we had teachers who were good. They were not necessarily PhDs, but each one could handle a subject very well. And it was those teachers that taught us until some of us went to Fabi College or went out of Sierra Leone. Some of those teachers, there were people with TC. There were people with just HTC. Well, quite a few had probably a doctorate or had a BSc. They were good, but they were trained. I think that's the other thing. We talk about teachers. You cannot just take anybody because the person goes to Milton Bagai, you say he's a trained teacher. No, these people are really trained. There are many things I am very scared to enter some of these programs. As one or two people said to me this morning, why are you still going there? Because there are things you still see. A place like Milton Magai, I'll tell you this, they had teachers being trained at Milton Magai. Some of them were as good as anywhere in the world. Teachers trained at Milton Magai. Bo Teachers College, Bunubu Teachers College. I'm not telling you about those now that we call universities. The quality of people that came out of they were so good. And what they imparted to us is still with us. And we're proud of what, as I say nowadays, there are many other factors, and one has to, I can only tell you what I saw, what I heard, what I experienced. I cannot speak for them. But all I can say is we had a head start. We had a head start. Ghanaians and Nigerians were here. They used to come here. At Fabi College, there are more Nigerians than Sierra Leoneans. Look at the register there. The Gambia, they were virtually here in our all institutions. What went wrong is what, to me, we should discuss. Why did Sierra Leone, which had that head start, we had one of the best civil service, we had a very good teacher training course, We had solid professionals in the people. They talk about people going to college or to go to school or to the office. People will go. There were not many buses or kekes. People walked and they went to school. They went to colleges. Something went wrong, and that to me is what I am still trying to find out. Where did we go wrong? I think one of the years we went wrong was when we had the war. I'm not saying that's the only cause, but I think it took us far back. But if I can remember when we were going to school from the south, Regent Road to Prince of Wales School, which still maintains it, but at the time, you go to a school like Prince of Wales Grammar School and it was, they were solid. People spoke English. I was ashamed the other day when I was told, I read in the papers that they're teaching our students again to speak English. You would not, in some houses in Freetown, you would not speak Creole. I'm a Creole, but our parents were so strict that they wanted you to learn to talk English, even at home before you go. And at school, you dare not. They'll give you 6 cuts. You'll be sober. Over the last few years, something went wrong. To me, that's it. This country had everything. South Korea, Malaysia. The Malaysians came here for their palm oil. President Kaba told me. The West African palm produce at Masankel. He said this was where they took all the seedlings, went back to Malaysia. Malaysia now is one of the fastest growing countries in the world. They took it from here, he told me. He said he was there, was on a civil service. Is it the people? Is it our leadership? I don't know. I cannot give answers. All I can say is I saw the beginning of a wonderful country. I cannot go beyond that. Up to the rebel war, I think things started to go wrong. And for me, I can only say I thank God for being alive. A lot of colleagues I went to school with are dead, not because of hardship, but people left, also went to many countries abroad. They don't want to come back home. I cannot stay long out for them, but I still love my country. I think the question is, where did we go wrong, and what were the factors that took us back or still taking us back?
The establishment of a one-party state has been cited as one of the reasons for the woes of this country. What's your take on that?
Yes, it has contributed, but it did not take too long. If you remember, the first person to talk about that was Sir Albert Magai, and there was so much hue and cry, and he had to cancel the whole thing when he started to take people from out to go into the judiciary to make sure they fix it. I think yes, one-party states. Under President Stevens, yes, I think because he opposed it at the beginning, but later on he implemented it. Yes, I think that was a mistake. We should not have gone that way. It did not help us. But then Nigeria, Ghana, the other countries also implemented. They were able to get out of it. And I think probably we did not get out of it very quickly. The one-party state, yes. But I don't think that's, to me, the greatest problem was the rebel. Sierra Leoneans were strong people. We can get out of situations when we're ready. And I don't think, it took us a bit back, but not as much as the war, which I think destroyed our country. That's my view. One-party state, yes, but Ghana also went to Nigeria, Burkina, all of them. Some of them still going one party, but I don't know whether ours was a problem. There are other people who talk about leadership. There are some Sierra Leoneans, locally and abroad, who say, they'll tell you whenever it's our problem is leadership. But why? When we've taken some of the best out of the universities all over the world, now the president was talking the other day, he said he will allow Sierra Leoneans who have been abroad, who can qualify for citizenship also abroad, to get into our politics. This is fine, although we don't know how committed. What is lacking, I don't know. You might help us, so let's tell our people, let them send questions or give answers. To me, that's where, not so much the one-party state. The one-party state, yes, it did, means that you only have a party. The APC had only the APC, All People's Congress. The SLPP opposed it, but in the end, quite a number of them also took APC membership cards. I don't know whether it's affected us very seriously. It affected us, but we have somebody who's a political scientist. So you might have a different view.
Let me rope you in, Lena. Thank you very much, Francis. Looking back, I mean, this is your field, it's your niche, politics. I mean, from a professional standpoint, how would you analyze politics and governance in Sierra Leone?
Sorry about that. I don't know. I have a frog in my throat. Okay. Yeah, it's. I tend to agree with Mr. Gabilon here in terms of in Sierra Leone we have merged governance and also politics together. Okay. So in terms of governance, you govern. You ensure that when you're governing, it's for the whole of of everybody. But what we have in our discourse, in our system, is that we've seen the overburden of politics. And what I mean by politics, party politics, that is now overtaking the essence of governance. And when we have that, we have a clouded view of how we see Sierra Leone, our future, and so forth. Each party has its vision, because that's the purpose of party. You create a vision of where you want to be and how you're going to get that. But when that gets clouded by other things, in terms of you selecting the wrong people to be in governance, not because they might be good for the job, but because you might owe them something, or they've poured something into your campaign, your party, and so forth. So you feel obligated to appoint them. And sometimes we have empty vessels who have no business in governance, no business there. And when you have that sort of leadership, what trickles down is nothing. It's just everything being compromised. And unfortunately, our political system is built on that. Because if you look one party state, it was all built on that advantage from what I can get and what I can make, as opposed to looking at the bigger picture of when I go into politics and when I'm in governance, I'm doing that on behalf of the people. I'm there to serve the people. People tend to serve themselves. And that is our problem. I normally, when we talk about governance and politics in Sierra Leone, we tend to start to look at it and dissect it at the middle level. I normally say you start with the individual. And I think what we have lost in Sierra Leone is that sense of self, of values, of respect. You come from a home, you know that this is what I was taught. I should not steal. We go to church, we go to mosque, and the commandments or whatever says we should not steal. Why do we now go to a workplace and steal? So I tend to look at it not from that mid-level, but we have to go underneath. Why are we Sierra Leoneans like this? And when we start dissecting ourselves, we will understand how our governance system is structured and how we can unlearn. Because majority of the things that we are experiencing now has its legacy, its colonial legacy, post-colonial and so forth. But we have to unlearn. In order for us to move forward, we have to unlearn some of the behaviors that we have now. Because we normally talk about these things in a vacuum, or with the governance, or with the whatever. But what about ourselves? As a politician, if you stand election, what are your values? What are your morals? What will you do and what will you will not do? If you have that clarity of self, when you go into politics and you end up in governance, you will know what you should do and what you should not do. But the majority of us here would say one thing from the side of our mouth and do something else. And that is important. Who are we as a people? You know, when I got a call late last night from your producer, and he said, oh, I should be here today. Really? And I said to him, how many times have we spoken about? Every year we do the same thing. What have we learned? Because the problem still persists in terms of how we do politics and how that translates into governance. It still persists, you know? So I think for us, Sierra Leonean, I know I'm starting a bit in terms of government. For us, Sierra Leonean, I think we have to take a critical look at ourselves in the mirror. When you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror. Do I look nice? What can I do to improve myself? I think we have to take a critical view. And coming back to the war, I think we have not yet explored the psychology of war had in Sierra Leone, the trauma. Okay, we had the TLC and all that. Well, there was trauma here. And we keep repeating the conditions that we see now were there before the war. They were there before the war. And we all tend to say, oh, it's a governance issue. It is bigger than governance issue because it is it's self. We don't have clarity of self. Who are we as Sierra Leoneans? You go to Nigeria, the Nigerians know who they are, what they expect. We don't know. I normally ask students, who are you as a Sierra Leonean? What is a Sierra Leonean to you? Most of them cannot answer. Who am I as a Sierra Leonean? What makes me unique as compared to everybody? You know, when we start having to look at ourselves more critically, and that will inform of where we want to go and how we execute it in terms of politics and governance. Because we tend to, Sierra Leone, one of the things I can say about Sierra Leonean people, we tend to have amnesia. We forgive easily. We don't hold people accountable. And that is what I mean that we have an amnesia. Because some of the things we're seeing now happened before. Okay? So we have to hold those who are in governance accountable to ensure that they respond to our needs as citizens. We have our citizens. Sierra Leone is not about the leaders and whatever. It's about the people. And what we expect from leaders. If we expect little from our leaders, that means we expect little from ourselves. And in terms of governance, then you will have all of what we have now. Where now, if we see people are the space for public dialogue, the space for free speech is getting tighter and tighter. Exactly. You know, so we have to. These are the issues that we should be looking at. How do we define ourselves as Sierra Leone, in order to hold those that we put in these kind of positions of governance to be held accountable.
Let me bring Francis again in on this. I mean, Leonard has made a convincing argument. Now, he has tied everything that is happening now to attitude, the behavior of people. Before now, we had what we call the attitudinal and behavioral change, secretariat. Not sure, you know, how much was that successful, though, in Sierra Leone, but from what Lena has said, it appears as though there is a pattern that much of the rottenness, if you like, that we're seeing now is as a result of bad behavior.
She's right. I totally support her. In fact, we are doing some of the things we used to do that created the railway war. That's number one. Number two, she said something which also, I've really looked at the TRC and see some of the problems that was enumerated there. I don't think we have. I've seen it, I've read it, but even, I will confess, I don't think I've gone through the report as I should. And I don't think most Sierra Leoneans have really looked at the report of what happened during that period. And what can we learn? One of the things I think we have, which I still see, is the caliber of people who want to go to Parliament. We have a problem which, to me, unless, again, I go back to history, I remember as a young boy, I used to go, they used to call it LEGCO, Legislative Council. Yes, we used to go and listen. We did not understand everything, but when you hear the Bankole Brights, Shaka Robin Stevens, Wallace Johnson, these were not people who necessarily had PhDs or they had. You listen to the debate, the quality, what they were talking about. You look at Hansard today and you still see what they said. They were the people who actually were saying what this country needed, and up to today they're still like. Nowadays, you meet Mr. X, probably was your schoolmate, you know he was a dropout. The last thing you remember was that he said he wanted to go overseas. He tried to go on this, what you call it?
Temple run?
Yes, temple run. He did not succeed. The next is Parabidon. But are they going inside? They go inside? Are they go Parliament, sir? No, I am not joking because you either feel like collapsing or you just go away. And this is a problem we have because there are people who are in Parliament for months and they don't say a word. I saw it. I used to visit my friend Abbas Bundo. I used to go to him at times. I said, I have nothing to do. I have a free time. Let me sit down. I said, Francis, sit and listen. You can count on your hands a few people from Parliament. They are good. They know the subjects. They were critical. They knew what they were talking about. There are other people there. The only things they will do is to clap. They will clap and they will knock the door and they will make noise. And these are people who have been paid money. They have their constituents who are expecting them to perform. But throughout that period, they have not performed. And they might even go again until they want to have a second time. And she said something like that. Ghana and Nigeria, I have to compare with them because you see them. When they're having parliamentarian elections, my living God, if you have not performed, just know that you're not going back. Another thing I want us to bring to this is what the power to recall, which I think they have in America. We should try and bring that where if you have not done well in your constituency, your constituents can ask for you to be taken out of Parliament. That due to recall. In other words, you're wasting time. Let us have somebody who would look at our interests, who look at the country's interests. We have people who have been in Parliament for years. Another thing, I don't think paramount chiefs should be in Parliament. We are the only country now that still keep them in Parliament. Yes, no Ghana, no Nigeria, no the Gambia. Why do we still? They're good. They're very good for provincial administration. They do well, the security sector. But do we really need them in Parliament? And what all the facilities they have? They don't have to be in Parliament. That was years ago. When you have by Koblo, you had by Sheka, Alikali Modu. These were solid, good people. But they're either dead or even those who came back or came after them are not as good as them. They don't really participate in governance, as you were saying. How many we have? But we need paramount chiefs in Parliament in terms of what they do, their productivity. They have lots of cars, they have facilities. But I don't think, it's my view, I don't think we need paramount chiefs in Parliament. I don't think they are contributing anything in terms of legislative. When did you hear a paramount chief bring a private member's motion? And most of the time, they vote with the government. Yes, the high service. We joke about some of these things. But at times when they say they have service, do you know what has been passed? Has it been looked at? The other day, one member of Parliament met me and said, whenever you have time, Mr. Gabidon, we will bring you to the legislative committee, something like that. I said, why? He said, because at times we need people to help us. I said, but what, you have parliamentarians? He said, yes, we have. He said, but we also need outsiders. I said, but do you invite them? He said, no. I said, but you should. There are some bills which have very technical and serious issues. And after 1 or 2 days, they have been passed. Have the legislators really looked at them? Have they looked at the pros and cons of some of these bills? I don't know. And these are some of the things, when they've taken effect, they have serious consequences. And it takes time for us to realize what has been passed in Parliament. We have a lot of work to do. I think the caliber of people who go to Parliament, I cannot speak for anybody, but I'm not too happy. There were people, they say, oh, Mr. Gabidon, all it says, you must know how to speak English or something like that. I said, for God's sake, that is not just all. You know how to speak English. Do you understand the debates? Do you understand the issues? Do you criticize? That's another thing. Take at times when they go to Parliament and they say these people have gone through the appointments committee, they've gone through X, Y, Z. You hardly hear anybody who has been thrown out. I don't know of anybody who they have rejected. I think on 1 or 2 occasions. Go to Ghana or Nigeria, they will take you back from your school certificate. Oh my God. When you say some of these things, people think you're trying to score points. They've driven people out of parliament in Nigeria and Ghana, took them back to the fact that they did not even go through their school certificate. How many of them have we really criticized constructively for them to be there? And after some time, the speaker would tell them, well, please do well for your country. We expect you to do well.
Mr. Gabidon, let's be direct. Is Sierra Leone's problem the bad leaders or a bad system that produces bad leaders?
A combination of all.
Because you know there's the adage that says
the leadership comes from the people.
Exactly, and there's the adage that says the people deserve the leaders they have.
If people get the government it deserves. Yeah, that's it. That's the phrase. That's what you want to say. Yeah, but then it's true, because if we elect A, B, C, D, yes, and they're there, yes, you're quite right.
So do you think we're facing all of these problems because of the shift from parliamentary system to presidential system, which concentrates so much power in one man?
Have we educated our people as to the type of people that they should put in parliament? Have we educated our people as to what a member of parliament is required to do? Well, I don't know. In the past, forgive me, you had people who were not necessarily university graduates, but they were good people like Wallace Johnson, Manapaka. These people did not go to Frabe College. No, they did not go there. They were good debaters. They understood the issues. They were critical of things. But now you don't hear this. There are 1 or 2 people, but most of the time, everybody is voting aye. In other words, why are people refused to criticize? Oh, Pagabi, no, let me not the party. Then go sack me. I remember once, I'm sorry, I won't call his name. He's now the deputy speaker. Very good. He's still there, and he criticized a lot of things. He was a member of the government party, and they turned on him. I never forget. They said, "Oh, kick him out." All he was saying was the right thing, but the other members of the party and the government did not agree. But what he said was right. Now he's been promoted to deputy speaker. This boy has been like, how would you put it, a voice in the wilderness. Now they're seeing that this man. That's the other problem. Our party structure. Does it mean you can't have internal criticism? If you dare, the next thing, the rest of them pounce on you. Why can't you have internal criticism? Right now in the Conservative Party in England, or this Stammer is even being criticized by his own people. The speaker threw out a girl the other day. I don't know what he said he was talking on. And people cannot even accept internal criticism. Yes, internal on this, what's his name? Epstein issue and the other one on the appointment of Lord Martin. These are all the things we have to know about, and know that if you can criticize your own party constructively, you come up with good ideas. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Should we develop that habit? So probably these are some of the things, because most of the time everything goes to 98, 99. I'm sorry. But this is what I see. I might be wrong. I stand to be corrected.
Let me bring you in as we round up, as we try to so I know that our political parties do say they have ideologies. Of course, when we talk of political parties in Sierra Leone, we talk of APC and SLPP. But you are a lecturer. Is it that our universities are failing to produce principled politicians because they go to university to study politics? Or is it that politicians are just resistant to reform?
My take, because I've asked this question to myself a while. I've been at the university now for a long time. I have taught a lot of these politicians, previous government and this government as well. And when they're in the classroom, it's an idealistic view of the world, and it should not happen, we should change it and so forth. And sometimes I lament to myself, what is the purpose of me being here? When you see what is going on down there in terms of Frabe College up at the hill and going down there. So I lament to myself, what is my purpose here? Teaching politics. You know, because it's not that they don't know. It's just that I think the system, this idea that you have to pay obeisance to the party, and as Mr. Gabriel says, you go against the party. That means you would not progress financially or even within the structure of the party. So it's not that they don't know the difference. It's the system, and funny enough, when we look again, socialization is also an important factor. Because even if you are born into that system, that is all you know. To move away from that system and do something else it takes a lot of courage. And that is why I said before that some of the things that is going on, we have to unlearn it. We cannot unlearn. If we cannot unlearn it, it would persist. So when you are born into that system, people say, oh, want to move forward, they want to do this or whatever. But that legacy is still there. And to remove that legacy, we have to be very intentional about it and say, this is not going to happen, this is not what we want, and so forth, because we know the consequences of that. Right. So, yeah, in terms of ideology, I'm not going to go into ideology because even I wouldn't say they're socialist or whatever, but I hear the SFPP say they're social democrat. What that means to them is anybody's guess. I don't them. So, but they're at the university, they're very good people, very good students, very idealistic students. You know, they're go-getters. And one thing I like about this generation, we talk about Gen Z a lot. Gen Zs are go-getters. Because even with all the obstacles, we see a lot of talent, creativity coming from there. And that is what we need. And sometimes, again, our problem in Sierra Leone is that we are too reliant on government. Government should put money on entertainment. Why? Can't you be creative, create your own money? Government should be ambassador of entertainment. And why? All that is depleting the meager resources that we have. Yeah. So we put all our attention on what the politicians in Sierra Leone are our own kind of celebrities. They go on TV, talk, whatever, they're in the news, whatever, and so forth. That should not be the case. Celebrity should be celebrity. Politician is a politician working for the people. But majority of, well, I won't say majority of them, but some of them we see out there thinking that they're celebrities. And then this mentality of having crowds, people following in a crowd, all that builds on the ego. It builds on the ego. And you now feel that you're this high and mighty somebody when your job is to work for the people. Right. And that is our mentality.
Thank you very much, Lena and Francis, for now. And please stay with us on the program this morning. Now, because one of the pillars of governance architecture is our House of Parliament. It has evolved from serving under a parliamentary system to a presidential one, and even under a one-party rule.
The role of a legislature has been pivotal with the passage of many laws shaping the country's future. However, for decades, it has been criticized as a place where MPs stand up more for their political parties than for the people who elected them. Allegations of corruption and weak oversight have also been leveled against MPs over parliamentary correspondent. Our parliamentary correspondent, Samuel Tony Sawyer, takes a look at this.
It all started with these two iconic figures who pioneered the transition from colonialism to independence and republicanism. Governance from foreign influence ended on April 27, 1961, when the Duke of Kent opened this House of Parliament under the purview of Speaker Boston, and governance in the hand of Sir Milton Strybey Mackay.
Beneath this edifice seats the whole nation as represented by the elected parliamentarians, built by Israelis who left it incomplete amid a disagreement with the then OAU. It is still beautiful, but many have blamed the ugly side of the country on what does or doesn't get done here.
I think as Parliament at 65, what we should expect is to continue to consolidate the gains that we have made and to continue to work tirelessly for the people that elect us to come here and represent them. Because at the end of the day, we are not members of Parliament without them. But like I said in my opening, what we are witnessing is inherited, and it's a long-term problem. And those problems we cannot fix in 5 years or in 3 years. It takes time, and you have seen changes. There are marked changes around Parliament. There are marked changes around debate content, around contributions by members of Parliament. You will see the types of legislations we have passed. You will realize that there are critical bills that we have passed. We ventured into uncharted territories where other countries cannot. We have passed the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. You cannot. Today, big countries in Africa, the big boys in Africa, they are not to even bring a bill of such nature.
Having evolved from a parliamentary to a presidential system, it has ensured the passage of many pieces of legislation and agreements, some progressive and some others controversial. There have also been allegations of corruption or weak oversight, as flagged in the IGR's Afrobarometer report.
With regards corruption and Parliament being modeled in maladministration or transactional issues, I think it's a systematic transformation. Monetary reports from Parliament has been an issue for a very long time, and this is the only Parliament in the world, again, let me tell you, that is not self-accounting.
For many Sierra Leoneans, it seems as though the wait has been too long.
Looking at the laws they make, we don't even know. If you member of Parliament not come from you, how you go make law for you? For now, as Sierra Leone, we only plead, let God carry you. For this particular time now,
the parliamentary, first of all, they seek their own interest. Then we say beginning. You know the effects for we, not for we. All the laws they would make, all the things they would make, now for their own benefits.
Yes, I don't believe so. Say the Parliament and the people and get that kind of connection, because if the Parliament and the people and get that connection, like then that's a program the way they go na their marketplace, interview businesswoman and different people in, then go get that kind one-on-one conversation. People then go able to say their mind, then go take anything into consideration.
The quest for the realization of the aspiration of citizens is palpable. The question on the minds of many is whether Parliament can be made to work better under a parliamentary system or presidential one. Samuel Tony Sawyer, AYV News, Freetown.
Reporter Tony Sawyer for that report. We're rounding off. Francis, you've listened to that report. What do you make of it?
The parliamentary report?
Yes. I mean, I'm sure it's connected to what you were analyzing just now.
Yes, yeah,
the quality of leaders we're getting in Parliament.
The quality of parliamentarians, yes, because Parliament is so important. I spend a lot of time now, because I'm retired, although I'm a consultant for government. But I listen to the British Parliament, and okay, they are right at the top. Well, I listen to British or American. For me, I don't know whether it's just a matter of the SLBC or ABC reporting to people what takes place in Parliament. I learn a lot from these parliamentary debates. There is so much being said, because it's from these debates that laws are being made. And there are times, for example, the appointment of Mandelson as ambassador to the United States. That thing happened some months ago. They're still debating, they're still talking about it. And somebody said to me, why they still talk about this man appointment? I said, do you know the consequences of the way and manner that man was appointed? You know, it will take things for granted, because as far as they're concerned, it doesn't matter. We have a problem. And I think the political scientists here, somebody I know are extremely bad. We do not go into the root causes of some of these problems. This was a man, brilliant man, very good record. And Stammer, he was a friend of Stammer, And when he went through the parliamentary or the security visit, it was rejected. And on the next time, they went and agreed for this man to go to be ambassador to the United States. And this thing has created inside women. These are the things that we must learn from. There's no question of now women. Let me give you an example. I'm sorry. I have a relative who was at law school. This relative failed years ago. I failed this relative, not in fact alone. And when I came home, there were calls from someone. You failed X, Y, Z. I said, yes, X, Y, Z. Not just me. I said, I was the second examiner. I said, in fact, it was the second examiner. Do you know that that was a problem for that family? Later on, when this relative had gone to somewhere and said, Uncle, I beg, I see what you may talk, because exactly what I said was, people cannot accept. I say, if you fail, take it again. Why do our people not want to take an exam a second time? What's wrong with that? I know people who took law when I was in England. They took it about 3-4 times before they eventually became lawyers. You would know when they came back home. Some of them were multimillionaires before they died. They could not pass it. Or some passed, they passed easily. And we have some problems. I don't know what it is. Whether it's a psychological problem. Then the other thing, probably this country is too small, we know each other. Because people know you more than you know yourself. Because some people call you, why Mr. XYZ failed? How did you know Mr. XYZ when the results have not been here? We have a problem now, probably you all know of what's happening in the law school. I'm not going to go into that now, but I saw that coming. But that's another matter. Right. The question is, as I said, square pegs in round holes. That was what I said. The parliamentary correspondents you talk about, do they really report what happens in parliament? Do they really report what the people like to know? And I said, how critical are they? Do they really report the intricacies, the areas that matter, the areas that people want to hear? And to me, unless we have this critical, and when I say critical, I don't mean you should say Mr. X is not a good lawyer, is not a good minister. No, no, no. You can criticize, for example, a bill. Look at certain issues of that bill. See the areas that are not good for the country or prejudicial. You could say probably these parts could be amended. These are the things we want to see. But to be honest with you, our people are reluctant to do it. I think if you know it's fair and constructive, you can do that.
All right, Francis, thank you so much. Lena, briefly, as we round off, how do we fix this?
How do we fix it? I think as we have learned our bad behavior. Bad behavior is one of it. Okay. In terms of in Parliament, I don't know. I don't keep up as I should in terms of Parliament. I don't, because I don't find it interesting, because it is just there to just stamp, rubber stamp and what so forth. So it goes back to how we elect our politicians. And it goes back to the party system as well. Once we democratize or we clear out our parties, political parties, whether APC or SLPP, and there are good people in Sierra Leone who want to get into politics, but because of how our party system is, because of the political environment, which can become very toxic, because of the substandard debates that we have in Sierra Leone, people just say, well, I can't be bothered anymore. Let them do whatever they want. If we look now, the majority we see on social media is who wants to be flag bearer. We are 3 years away or 2 years away from that. But people want to put in there for flag bearer. What are you? Why do you want to be flag bearer at this time when we don't have light? There is water crisis. There is this, then there is that. Why don't we address those issues? Let us see you addressing those issues. Then the people will make their choice eventually. I know the political party make the choice, but we are bombarded by bloggers, by these pictures, rallies, whatever. Why? So we have to go back to look at our behavior. And to ensure that going forward, we don't want to come back 10 years from now when we are celebrating, is it 75? 75, and we're still talking about the same thing. So there's things that we have to do within politics. There are things that politicians have to do. There are things we as citizens ourselves have to take account for, and to hold those that we put in power accountable.
Right. Lena, thank you so much indeed, political science lecturer at University of Sierra Leone. And of course, you also heard from Francis Gabden, who is a veteran lawyer and a widely read man who knows a thing or two about a thing or two this morning. We've drunk, you know, well from your knowledge this morning. It's fine. Calling you from time to time to continue the discussions around good governance in Sierra Leone.
It's a pity split out this question of we have now in the world diplomats. What I'm saying, we need a delegation, for example, down to go to say Washington. 10 people. Look, if the British are coming here, about 2 or 3, our delegations are too large. I've said this to even the big man. It's why do you need a delegation of more than 3 people? If the British are coming here, not more, and they will utilize the man at the post here. We have solid people abroad in Ghana and Nigeria. Do you need all these people? I said, there was a delegation going to America the other day, about 9 or 10, I don't know. You know, either I'm stupid, which I'm sure I'm not, or there is something wrong with us. And some of our intellectuals also have a problem. It's not just a matter of government. They insist, they will fight to go. I used to be chairman of Sierra many years ago. We would have had a delegation. Let's say we're going to Brazil. A very important thing. We've already got this delegation. People will leave us, go to the minister, and go to the president and say, permit wanted a delegation because he says carnival. He wants to go to carnival in Brazil. Do you know what is carnival in Brazil? No, I'm being serious. So that delegation, instead of 3 people, you now have 6. And do you know what was fair for all of us to go to Brazil and back? These are things that happen in this country. Okay. We have to cut down some of these delegations. Even in Nigeria, we saw with 200 people.
It's a good thing that we just be joined by
why do we need big delegations? We spend a lot of, I'm sorry.
Of these trips to the...
No, I'm sorry. We waste so much money on delegations. What is wrong with telling your friends? You know they go.
Right.
Oh, yes.
There is also nothing wrong in Zoom.
Look, we had permanent secretaries. I won't call their names now. One set list is gone. It doesn't matter, even if it's, you know they go. Now 3 people they go. But some people do everything to go. Why do you want to go to Brazil? Okay. He cannot give any reason. And it was only 2 or 3 of us that was necessary to go to Brazil. But as I say, we have problems.
Most definitely.
And that man will nearly kill you because I don't hate you, don't become problem. You know, like me. I was not in the delegation. I said, oh my God. Right. Just to say no. You're not going to work.
We'll surely continue the conversation, of course.
As I say, I have views which
we're going down for a very short commercial break, and we shall be back in a jiffy. Stay tuned to the program.
More people are using Wakeup SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, like a Wakeup SIM couple.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Wakeup SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Wakeup SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe, and reliable.
Sorry, Carl, go see some business partners.
You didn't give me my money, Michael. If I kiss I young,
you remember this camp people in not to in that day.
Michael, today you pay me my money. I don't send it for let you help me send money in Ghana. 2 weeks now, you not send me money and 10 you not give me back my money. Today, give me my money.
You know ever sabi goodness na life. I send back your money, but trust me, today na the very last day I ever send money for now.
I don't need your help because I don't know so with Afri money. I able send money. Now baku Africa countries them.
With Afri money, we able send money to over 10 African countries, whether it's Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, or Kenya. If me party be know this, we not follow the party grammar right now.
Okay, una go regret. I mean, now me not. Una go regret.
The best part right now, Michael, with Afri money, you dey able send money even if you not use app, even if you know the online directly. All you need for do, you just dial *161#. Pam, your money don't go. So I don't need the help again. Thief man.
Thank you.
Send money to over 10 African countries instantly with Afri Money. No stress, no excuses. Just dial *161*1*6# now. Afri Money, quick and easy.
Again, it's been a very crazy day. The joyous feeling in the air when rain falls on a sunny day.
Happy, yeah. Let the stars, let the roll.
Enjoy life's little pleasures with Maltina. Maltina. Share happiness.
As mama, I always want waiting best for me picking them, especially when it comes out waiting them for eat and drink. Now this make I always they choose Sarah juice because they make them from with local foods them and nutritious and it gets less sugar than the other drinks them. Not to me say so.
We lab test show say Sarah juice gets 50% less sugar than the other drinks them. Now the market.
Because we mama they know waiting best for we picking them, now you make we always they choose Sarah juice. Sarah juice and nutritious, a healthy and it's sweet. Sarah juice, not the taste of Salome.
Welcome back. Happy Independence Day again to you. And if you're just joining us this morning, this is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV. Well, broadcasting on channel 33, we're also on DSTV on 399. You can also listen to us on radio this morning on 101.7. We're also streaming online on YouTube and on Facebook.
It is 65 years since Sierra Leone gained its independence from Britain. What have been the ups and downs? President Julius Maada Bio has called for national cohesion in the face of political tension. We continue to look at some sectors of society, hear from the people on what this day means to them, and talk to our distinguished panelists. In the next hour, we will bring you reports and talk about the economy. To do that, we're joined by the Minister of Finance, Sheku Ahmed Fantamadi Bangoa, a former Minister of Finance and Trade, David Keru, and a Civil Society Economic Watcher for IGR, Mervyn Foy. Welcome, gentlemen, to Wake Up Sierra Leone this morning, and happy Independence Day to you all. I was expecting you all to be in your green, white, and blue.
I focus on the blue. Focus on the blue. It's not bad. But the minister is in the green, white, and blue tie.
Oh, yes.
It's quite appropriate. Well, good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Morning.
Mr. Let me start with you. How is our economy looking at the moment?
Thank you very much. A day of memory, a day for celebration, in my view. And thank you for hosting us. The Sierra Leone economy at the end of 2025 was one assessed internationally as having been effectively managed, where we had really attained and established macroeconomic stability backed by reforms that we have been doing, undertaken in the last 3 years. That is beginning from the end of 2022, 23, 24, and 25. And what I mean by that is simple. First, by mid-2023, end of 2022 to 2023, we had very, very difficult numbers on inflation, which we all were attest to, had actually peaked around 54.5% by October 2023. We ran the deficits in the country on the back of shocks. We were not able to effectively tame or anticipate what happened in Russia and Ukraine after the COVID. At COVID, we had a lot of inflow of grant resources globally, and equally Sierra Leone enjoyed from that. But immediately after that, we were not able to anticipate Russia and Ukraine and the follow-up of shocks that were associated with that. Those shocks, they permeated our trade architecture, forestalling access to freight costs, but also access to essential commodities, and all that actually permeated into price structures in the country. Plus also at that time, I think there was a little bit of mismatch around macro fiscal management that actually degenerated into very challenging fiscal numbers. But by the end of, by the following year, 2024, we set on very active reforms leading into 2025. What we saw at the end of 2025 was an effective management of price levels in the country. We were able to bring inflation down from the tip of 54.5% way down to 4.4% at the end of December. This country was running on higher interest rate costs, benefiting, of course, those who invest in government securities, but very costly for government on the back of shortfalls in revenue efforts. And so the government had to go to the financial market to be able to sell government treasury instruments and mobilize resources. That actually led to a rise in interest rates up to 41%. That was costly, and it was high debt that I think was crowding out the private sector. What we did, in the course of 2025, at the end of 2024 to 2025, we tamed that very effectively. We brought down the interest rate from 41% way down to mid-teens, around 16%. And it's been like that, I would say, since May 2025 up to date, as I speak. We've been managing it very effectively. So it's mid-teens. The importance of that, which is deemed to be a sustainable, what we call sustainable rate of cost of interest, cost of government instruments, it manages what we call hedging between holding foreign currency versus holding the instruments of government. So you make sure that people have value for holding the instruments of government with treasury securities versus holding dollar or foreign exchange. So that is a very good rate, and we've kept it at that. Currency has been stable. We had instability with currency when we did the redenomination of the Leone. But that had settled, and I think what you have seen in the last couple of years is stable value for the Leone relative to other currencies, even under shock. And that is a function of a few things. And our coordination between ourselves and the central bank around how we manage our fiscal policy or government appetite, government ambition or appetite for spending. What we did in the last couple of years from 2023, 24, 25, we tamed the spending of government somewhat. Kept it almost nominal constant or in real term constant. And then we try and make sure that we put in more pressure on the revenue measures in terms of tax measures, in terms of efficiency of tax administration. And the result that we had was not only nominal reduction in the deficit to GDP ratio, but we had what we call primary balances that turned surpluses. So the surplus year-on-year change in primary balance, primary surplus, we stood at 7 percentage points of GDP by the end of 2025. That's a buffer, right? So by the assessment by IMF in February this year, where they are deemed us as having achieved macro stability, we got a shock, right? So this shock from the war in Iran in the Middle East generally with US and Iran, but also Israel, Lebanon, and all of that dynamics. It has actually thrown a lot of shock and uncertainty into the entire global economy, but we are not left out of it. Sierra Leone is directly impacted by that shock because of the structure of our economy and the value of a composite commodity, which is petroleum. The petroleum commodity is one that touches and permeates every sector aspect of the Sierra Leonean economy. We're a small open economy, but we don't hold strategic stock levels for petroleum products. The petroleum products are managed on collateral management basis, where you have wholesalers seated there in Geneva. The ADAX, for example, that supplies one of our major big company in countries, NP, but even the others are feeding off from that. So ADAX is the holder and owner of strategic stock level of petroleum products in the country. They sell on the spot. So if the price in the international market changes and we want to uplift by retailers, the retailers don't have the capital level to be able to keep big stock of fuel in the country just like that. That's government responsibility, but our policies, I think, are changing towards being realistic and facing the reality of ensuring that we have stock levels. We don't have stock levels. So you see that we are in constant engagement with the petroleum marketing companies around ensuring that they protect their business whilst we assure supply of essential commodities like petroleum into the country, right? So that's the conundrum that we face. Now, what does that mean? It means with this shock, the government has to sit back to recalibrate the entire fiscal framework because we had assessed $70 per barrel for the year for petroleum products. That's really the assessment. You see in the market that has actually increased from 70 way up to 110, 115, even the peak of 120 in the course of this crisis. So what does that mean for me? I have advised, I've done an assessment, sincerely, of the entire impact of that war on the economy. And then we've had an engagement at the level of the economic management team where it's chaired by the president and brought out exactly what is the impact of this and how do we respond to it. In terms of impact, definitely, you've seen the prices, inflation that was at 4.4% at the end of December is now 10%, 10.2% there, about 1.8% there about. So, and that happened by gradual increase in January and February, and then in March, right? So when you start having that, the gains we have made with taming inflation, which is a coordination between Central Bank and Ministry of Finance in taming government borrowing appetite, but also Central Bank taking very good posture around managing interest rates, well, we need to recalibrate. It means we need to go back to the drawing board and see exactly what this means. First shot of it is the following. You have to ensure that you protect the population from the excessive increase in the price of petroleum products because it will dissipate quickly. The inflation gains we have made, it will dissipate quickly. The interest rate, it will dissipate quickly, even the value of the currency, if you're not able to manage it, because once those numbers start getting out of control, it's not about macro management anymore. It becomes something deliberate that the government has to do. So we've been engaged with international partners. I just came back from Washington, leading a delegation to both to the spring meetings of the World Bank and the IMF. And the nature of the discussions there were sobering. First, global acknowledgement of the gravity of the current crisis, the unpredictability of the crisis, and the kind of posture that nations or countries must take individually to make sure that they shore up their gains that they have made in their economy without being too overly exposed to excessive subsidies or the like. What we are doing in Sierra Leone, we have what we call targeted subsidies. We have been in engagement with our companies, the petroleum companies, and make them understand that we have no intent in destroying their business, because together we are allowing a very stable, well-run economy. We have not had shortages of petroleum products in this country at all, not for this crisis. So we spoke to them that we'll go and make advocacy for targeted subsidies to their companies to be able to tame the direct impact of the price hikes into permeating different sets of the economy. We've had overtures from manufacturing firms, the telecom companies that are hosting towers. They are all telling us exactly the impact, EDSA, right, which is running on the HFO. And the HFO, I will tell you, for Car Power alone, that's accounting for a sizable percentage. This is the dry season. So if we haven't resolved all the problem on the projects on the energy sector, we have not. So we still need to carry on with Car Power. And Car Power was a $5 million bill per month. With the current increase in the price of petroleum products, we're going to be getting like $8 million bill per month. The government has to step in with some form of a subsidy. So we're going to be subsidizing the petroleum sector. This is an agreement that we have reached with an international partner, but in a very targeted way, projecting one way or the other whether this crisis continues up to June. If it continues up to June, we started in March, from the 1st of March up to June, we are providing subsidy within that period. And then I will take a supplementary budget to Parliament and ensure that we project to the rest of the year and be very determined as to how much amount we can subsidize in a very, very, very nuanced way. So if I should say where we are on the economy, we had achieved macro stability, where that is what we need to protect and preserve. But we currently have a crisis, and we need to be nuanced about our policy advisory and decisions on protecting that by making sure that we protect businesses, we protect the vulnerable people, whom will be seriously affected by any increase in price on essential commodities. And for essential commodities, there's a lot we are doing. For rice, for petroleum products, we've been reaching out. There are global initiatives on petroleum, for example, where our Flexim Bank, and this is really to help the private sector. Our Flexim Bank has made available $10 billion for financing facilities to member states of our Flexim Bank. We've requested for Sierra Leone to have access to $100 million to be able to support our petroleum marketing companies. These are companies that should have access to line of credit to allow the supply of the product into the country. So if you have product supplies, at least you assure the economy to run very smoothly. It's the same thing we're doing for other essential commodities, rice, flour, sugar, and the other frozen commodities. We've had $60 million from Badia. This is to help private sector. This is not really government. It's basically to help private sector. Because the nature of the crisis, yes, governments will be affected, but it is the private sector that has to be protected if you have to ensure that the economy is run very smoothly, right? So we're taking that posture whilst we ensure that we calibrate the entire fiscal framework, create rooms, we had buffer, create rooms in our primary balance, and take care of the shock. The shock will reduce on the revenues we are collecting because freights are actually constraints coming into our country. There are delays. So you will start having hikes in freight prices, but also availability of essential commodities. So you have to be smarter in ensuring that you forward buy with those kind of facilities and make sure that we don't run short of them. So those are the policies that we are trying to bring on the table, and that's where we are on the economy.
So I want to hear from David now, but before you do, just out of curiosity, how much do we make as a country per month on generation revenue in the country? How much do we generate?
The country collects an average of $2 million, $2.5 million per day on average.
Per day?
Yes, sir. Per day on average, that's what we collect from our domestic revenue effort. That amount we're using to first pay salaries. Salaries are $25 million a month in this country on average. Right? It's close to 550 million Leones. That's what we pay for salaries. And then we pay debt service. Debt service we run about 50 million, thereabouts, dollars, right, per month, largely driven by domestic debt. Treasury bills, not the external. The external is less of a problem than the domestic. The domestic is what we are trying to manage very effectively. And the rest we take to run the administration and then run our foreign missions. But if there are any shortfalls on revenue, I go to the market. I go to the market because I have a borrowing window that I have to manage on a month-by-month basis, and I'm very transparent about the size of my borrowing that I have. I actually communicate that to the market every quarter. That this quarter, this is my borrowing window, and you plan yourself as a bank to participate on the instruments that the government sells out as securities, right? So we make that amount of money, and then we try and manage. So this is we must do more, if you ask me. And that is an average of about, it brings me close to last year, 10.8 percentage points of GDP. Aspirationally, really, if you make up to 15, 16% of GDP on revenue efforts, you can run the economy very effectively. So we have an aspiration to make sure that slowly, year after year on the reforms, we get to that. This year we are targeting 11.8% on the back of all the reforms that we have been undertaking. And then we go gradually. We have a medium-term revenue strategy that is aiming to reach at that by 2027. So that's where we are actually on this kind of.
Okay, Mr. P, let me bring you in. So as a former minister, of course you're the predecessor, right? To
He was my boss.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys have worked together. If you should give a fair assessment of the status of affairs of the economy at the moment, what would it be?
I would like to deal with that from the micro perspective, not the macro, to see the effect it has on the shop prices. He also mentioned that, and that is very correct, that the private sector is the sector of the economy that would grow the economy. So we look at all of these shocks that is mentioned, the effect that they have been having on doing business and creating wealth for businesses and for growing the economy. It has been very difficult. The reforms that the government is making have not filtered down to the ordinary man. And I'm not saying that he's not doing the right, he's doing everything that anybody would have done in his position. But let's take the first effect that the Russia-Ukraine issue, how it affected food. The main effect at that time was food, and we had barely recovered from that, and we've made the necessary adjustments we make as businesses, as consumers, etc. Then we have the Iran-Israel war. Now, for commodities to come into the country, it used to be about 30-45 days. Now it's getting on to 60-90 days because it's going on a different route, and then the insurance companies have asked for insurance on voyages, you know, and now you have to pay a fee to go through certain routes, etc. And it all filters down to the consumer. A lot of companies in September, October, they made their budget for 2026 and they were happy with it. They got their budgets approved and they were going to move forward with it. Just when they were getting ready to move forward with implementing the budget in 2026, we first of all had this fuel increase from whatever it was to
28.5.
24,
and now it's 35 and 40. That's a 50% for example, diesel, and I will focus on diesel. It's 50% to more than 50%. In fact, it's 18% and that is what you use to power your office. That's what you use to power your industry, right? And it has just thrown all your economics out of the window, right? Whilst you're trying to recover from that, you have the announcement of a minimum wage from 800 to 1,200. That's a 50% increase. Now, we should not just focus on the minimum wage. It has a snowballing effect, because once your junior guy move on to 1,200, if you are a supervisor at 1,100, you have to move. And then it goes until it hits the CEO. It has to go up as well. So the cost of production, the cost of manpower, the cost of electricity and utility, they're all affecting the quality of business. Now, if you notice, the network, we all now say network without realizing what it means. You cannot make connection as easy as you used to make it a few months ago, because now the communication companies now, they want to increase their tariff as well. Yeah. But you do not just get up and increase, you engage government, right? And government, being aware of the effect it's going to have on the ordinary man and the possible, you know, they would try to manage any of these negotiations so that the impact is not felt heavily by the ordinary person. But we are going through difficult, very, very difficult times. If we do not address the situation by June is going to have a different effect. A lot of other companies are going to go back to the drawing board and redo the budget for 2026. They're going to come back with a new set of prices. If you go to the supermarket, you would see the effect that it has had on the food prices. That, unfortunately, we are a consuming nation. We import everything, and as the saying normally goes, we even import toothpick. You know, that's how bad it is, and we need to go back and see what we can do as business people to make sure that we reduce the impact of these increases on our service or on our goods, and whilst we still try to retain the profit margin that we had gone into business for. There are so many reasons. We are very good at telling why the situation is as it is and finding the reasons. But I think we should spend a lot more time on focusing on the solutions that we need to take as a country to alleviate the suffering on the ordinary person. Another thing we realized that one of the favorite arguments of government, and I agree with them, that the exchange rate has been quite constant. But they should add a little bit more to that sentence, against the dollar. But the dollar itself, internationally, has been coming down. And if we are pinned to the dollar, we are coming down as well without knowing it. The only time you start noticing things like that, when you compare the performance of other currencies against the dollar. For example, let's take very close to this place, say CD. If you look at the way the CD has performed against the dollar, we should measure, taking into account the performance of other currencies against the dollar as a factor. Right? I would stop there.
So one thing that I've not heard in this conversation is many people do think that the fact that government expenditure remains far higher than the revenue collected, and of course the budget deficit exceeds our budget target. Don't you think that is a factor leading to what?
Of course it is a factor, but then we have to put it in context.
Okay.
There are certain commitments that government will have. Salaries, debt servicing, etc. These would happen, and you cannot deal with the consequences if you do not make it happen. But then the government needs the revenue generated from the country to cover those costs. And if the business is going down, then the revenue from the business is going down as well.
But practically, Mr. Keo, before the SLPP took over office in 2018, they did promise that they were going to reduce wage bill, that they were going to cut down on excessive travel expenses, and a lot more promises. Many people were hopeful that this would help the economy, which was already in austerity, by the way, from the past government APC. So I don't know, where are we going? What do you think can be done in this circumstance to better the lives of the people? Like
Let's understand, first of all, that no government comes into power to fail.
Two,
when they make their statement, it's a statement of commitment, and they entered into governance with all the intention to make it happen, right? They are not going to bully their way into second term or third term. They're going to make sure that they deliver on their promises. But then things happen. When things happen, we all need to come together now and see how we can work together to solve those problems, because it's going to benefit us. This thing is not about the government, it's about the effect it has on the ordinary man. So we have a vested interest in that solution as well. Right? So yes, the government did make promises, and I am positive that they had all the intention to keep those promises. But things happen, right? And it is how they handle the things that have happened. That's what we have. That's where we have the problem. So we will start by saying, how do we raise revenue? Can you raise revenue? Can we look for other sources of revenue? Can we reduce costs? Yes, we would like to reduce costs. But what are the other things that would go with that? If you say, don't employ 5,000 more policemen or 5,000 more soldiers, right? Are we not saying that get 5,000 5,000 more people unemployed, you know, and see how you balance these two issues.
Before we talk to our next guest, let's take a look at the sector with the potential to contribute significantly to the economy. At independence 65 years ago, hopes were pinned on the country's natural resources as they are on its beauty for its future prosperity. Now, despite being blessed with stunning beaches, rich culture and rare wildlife, it still now faces growing questions about how well it is protecting the very assets it promotes, let alone harnessing them.
The tourism sector tells a deep story, one of promise, progress and persistent challenges. Our reporter Mohammed Bakar Kama examines whether the country is truly ready to turn its natural beauty into a lasting opportunity.
All right, welcome back. We'd like to apologize gravely, you know, for that, well, if I would say, misunderstanding. But we hope to bring you that report subsequently, maybe the next edition of this program. At this point, I'd like to rope in Melvin on the conversation. You've listened to the Minister of Finance make his submission this morning. I mean, from a neutral standpoint, how do you assess our economy at the moment?
Thank you very much. It's interesting. The minister gave a macroeconomic analysis, the bigger picture, what's the economy and how we're faring us based on their targets and as a country. And the former minister gave a microanalysis, that is how those policies are affecting the ordinary people, the layman down there. And from both analyses, it puts us squarely, it says that we are fighting a crisis. And it's the story of the Sierra Leone economy. A little bit of crisis, external crisis, disrupts everything we do. From the minister's analysis, he gave a rundown from Ebola, COVID, now we have the Ukraine war, and now we have the Iran war. And it's interesting, some of the things he revealed. Primarily what's driving that crisis and how it impacts us is our inability to have reserves. And that's crucial. So we don't have reserves in terms of fuel reserves, petroleum and the rest. We don't have much reserves in terms of foreign external deposits. We don't have reserves in terms of our food products, our essential food items. So a little crisis that disrupts the flow, the logistics flow, the supply, will impact us significantly. He made a crucial point that in the petroleum sector is what you call just-in-time, operated in a just-in-time mechanism. They don't stockpile. So whatever fuel is coming, It's not owned by the petroleum companies. It's owned by the external supplier. And the external supplier, whether the fuel is internal or not, we always sell based on the current world situation. So what that means is we have little control in the selling price of a petroleum. And that, for me, is the theme. And in this context of looking at where we are from independence to now, it's a theme that cuts across. And the conclusion I get from them, I'll come practically to the impact on the Sierra Leonean, but the conclusion I get from them, we have an economy, the economy, the way it's structured, it's a challenge in itself. And within the context of talking about independence and where we've come from, if we want to start resolving and stop fighting this crisis, we have to go back and restructure our economy appropriately. That speaks to, that provides buffers. So when I say the way we're structured, historically, our economy is structured with an extractive posture. Everybody's extracting from Sierra Leone. The history we've had is we have diamonds, golds, and bauxite minerals. We're extracting. In fishing, we're extracting. In agriculture, we're extracting. And when we extract, we ship out. We ship out. That is the basic structure of our economy. With that kind of structure, it's not sustainable, because when you extract, your prices are determined by those who are out there, the external players. And if you are dependent on the appetites, the desires, or the dictates of the external buyer, then your economy will be up and about. Okay. So for me, where we start in terms of this, because that's how I frame it, we'll have in this crisis, but where we start is really restructuring our economy. The fear, imagine the Iran crisis took place. Within a week, within a month, we'll have a crisis. And we know petroleum drives, fuel drives, not just in transport cost. The minister was just, former minister was just saying, it has increased the operational cost of every sector. So the manufacturer used to spend 1,000 leones to run their generator, just as an example. And now he has to spend 1,500 leones because there has been a 50% increase in the direct cost. That means it's a cost on expenditure, on his expenditure, and of course it will impact the ability to grow. The individuals, of course, transport cost will have increased. The prices of goods in the country will have increased. And for me, that's where we need to start. And also, the way our economy is, I'm giving this as a historical background that shows why we're fighting conflict. We are an urban-based, urban-focused economy. We are not an inclusive economy. We are not a rural. So once there's a crisis, it hits Freetown, the Freetown gets stuck. Of course, there are rippling effects in the provinces. And so that's the perspective I want to take it. Also, crucially, the minister was talking, I'm happy you spoke about the expenditure, government revenue versus expenditure. You know, before this crisis, I purposely came with the government budget, citizens' budget. And when they launched the budget, I looked at it. And it speaks to what we've been talking about. In your introduction, you said Sierra Leone is a mining, but it's interesting. When government is projecting for 2026, the sources of their revenue, where they expect to get. I'll begin with a list. royalties on fishes, they're expecting to get only 1% of their total revenue from that. Mines revenue, mines contribution of the mining sector to government revenue, it's only 5%. No other, you have other charges. Crucially, comparatively to that, there are other 3 major statistics that will impact the micro sector, that will impact the business and the individuals. Government is expecting to get majority of its revenue from taxes. A, income tax, me and you. B, that is 32% income tax. Goods and services tax, 15% of total government revenue. Customs and excise, 21%. Within that context, you know, the government budget, it's a window to government economic policy and how it intends to run the economy if within that period. What government is saying is, we expect, ordinary citizens might be expecting that government will get more revenue from the mining sector, from the fishery sector, from those other sectors. But it's not the case, according to this budget estimate. They have the reasons why they've looked, they have the figures why they've looked at the figures. But it means it's me and you, we are paying more. We, the workers of Sierra Leone, we're paying more than the mining companies to the growth of our economy. If you base in that, if you want to grow an economy, if you want to manage an economy based on majority of your revenue coming from taxes, it means I as a citizen do not have a way to, I don't have money to spend. If I don't spend, the private individual that is buying and selling, that is manufacturing goods, trading, the companies, sorry, will not do because demand is low. If demand is low, it's a challenge. So it's within that context. And when you also you talk about how our economy is structured, is according to this, and it reflects on the government budget. So mining and industries are the third contributor to our overall GDP. The number one contributor is services. And when we say services, it's trade, imports of goods. Of course, Minister noted that we import everything. There is a problem in that. Tourism contributes, other services contribute, and the second contributor is agriculture. When you understand how that economy is structured, if trading is leading our contribution to GDP, our economy, it means we are exporting the jobs that we should be having. What we're doing, we're just consuming. We're not producing, producing what we need. So you will notice there is an increase in, probably an increase in import. Each time we import, we're exporting the work that should have been done, we should have been doing, the manufacturing that should be doing to other countries. And that's, it tells on the economy. So if you're importing, if you're import-based, you're trade-based, immediately they close the Straits of Hormuz, or the shipping lines get stuck, it impacts on pricing because that is where we're focused on. And so for me, the analysis is this, and this, I was looking forward to an opportunity to ask the minister and the government why the budget is structured in this way. And what is the plan to restructure the overall economy and really, because we will solve, we'll keep fighting. We'll win our fire force already. Right. We're fighting, and if every crisis we'll have to fight, it means one step, two steps forward, one step backward, or one step forward. We keep going back to the same thing, and we don't have that cushion. The ordinary man will suffer. I'll come to that later.
Right, so Minister, so Melvin has painted a picture as though we're burdening citizens in the country, where we should be making not much is being realized. How is that so?
Thank you. I want to thank you very much. I think you're spot on in terms of appreciating the structure of the economy. and trying to identify the areas where I think there are opportunities and potential for us to tilt and turn around. So we're a mining country. We're an agricultural country too. And equally so, we have very, I'll call it, promising population structure. These are three dynamic values that we must take to re-engineer an economy. And I agree with you, since history, the challenge has been that frank approach and discussion had not taken place. Yeah, 65 years on, the structure of the mining sector had evolved, but where we are today, there is no deliberate, there had not been a deliberate state commercial participation in the mining sector. The mining sector, as you said, purely extractive, bulk exploitation, right? So, but you must understand certain things with reforms. We have been reforming the sector through, first, knowing what we have, second, trying to re-engineer the laws, third, trying to build the institutional architecture and understanding exactly where there is a niche for us to turn around. And I think the current structure is such that we had full private sector participation. No government. Government relied on taxes. And the taxes were badly negotiated. I must say this for the country to know. Badly negotiated. This is, and they are from one government to another. This is not, and all those who have been there, my former boss, Keru, has been there and everything. It's very difficult. When you lock in on those agreements, they have stabilization clauses, it ties up the hands of the government. And to undo them, once you have them, after they have taken monies from outside to come and invest in the country. When you want to do it very aggressively, you end up in arbitration. Okay, and we have an example of MML, for example, where we had to settle out of court. So where are we heading? I think that's really the question. Where are we heading from this to change this narrative? Because I tell you, we only get, I've used this data before. In 2024, $1.2 billion exports. What came to the Treasury is below 5% of that, directly hitting the budget. And that is from what? Well, that directly hitting the budget. The other aspect that goes to private entities, Sierra Leoneans, or maybe foreign people who are operating in the private sector, associated with the mining sector, they will get something, right? But that contributes to the GDP. What needs to happen that must change? I think that's really the question he's asking. I think state commercial participation in the mining sector is important. Effective review of existing mining agreements so that at least we can have an understanding, frank understanding around those skewed agreements. The agreements, there are loopholes in there where the expertise in the government had not been robust enough in negotiating them. This is really the truth. And so I believe there must be state commercial participation. What state commercial participation does is not state takeover, but the state must have an equity stake. The law provides for that now. Law allows us to have up to 35% equity stake in mining, new mining concession. But we should go beyond that. We should really go beyond that. But let me touch on a few things. Let me touch on a few things, because there are things they have spoken about which I thought are important.
Yes, I mean, it gives me no pleasure to interject you now, Mr. Minister, but you surely continue your analysis on the next segment of the program. But we're wrapping off now, this particular segment. But shortly, Fabian Sweel and Bokari Matsia will be with you on the program. Yes, but we're concluding now. But thank you so much indeed for your time. And do stay tuned to the program. This is not the end of the program. The program is continuing with a first set of presenters. But for now, we'll have to bow out. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for coming. Sierra Leoneans again. This is our continuing coverage of Independence Day. Sierra Leone at 65. Welcome to a special extended edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television and AYV Radio on 101.7 FM. Happy Independence Day to you. If you're watching or listening to us, thanks for joining us on this historic day, the 27th April 2026. I am Alimata Judge still.
And I am Bokari Matia. Indeed, happy Independence Day to all Sierra Leoneans, whether you're watching us or listening to us from the provinces or in the capital on Channel 33 or on DSTV Channel 399 from across Africa or from around the world on our social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook. Welcome.
Today we're looking back on our independence and looking ahead. The birth of an independent country called Sierra Leone, a country whose citizens were upbeat and hopeful as they looked into the future.
But are those hopes still alive? We'll find out when we return after the short commercial break and allow our sponsors to talk to us shortly.
More and more people are using Wakeup SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, like a Wakeup SIM couple.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Wakeup SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Wakeup SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe and reliable.
You're watching and listening to a special extended edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV Television, radio and online on the historic day of the country's independence 65 years ago. In his address to the nation, President Julius Maada Bio says the country is making strides, but admits challenges remain. He calls on the people to remain united and committed to the nation.
Sierra Leone has undergone many challenges since independence, from a brutal civil war that killed an estimated 50,000 people to an Ebola outbreak that left nearly 4,000 killed. Politics, many say, has become a zero-sum game with the country's cohesion undermined.
It is believed that some of the reasons for the rebel war, as catalogued in the TRC report, have never gone away. Monoethnic politics, corruption, youth unemployment, poverty, and the lack of justice and basic social amenities, among others.
So shortly, we'll be looking at the governance architecture, the media, and how we got to where we are now. But before that, we'll talk about the economy, and it is a reality in our country to get a serving finance minister and the former on the same panel. As they are still here with us this morning.
Well, they've been here in the previous segment, and we'll just continue with them.
Yes.
So, do you want to welcome them since you just?
Or they welcome me.
You're welcome. But he was making a comment.
Yes. Mr. Bangwa, you were giving some analysis a while ago before we took that break.
No, thank you. You asked for hopes, whether our hopes are alive. And I think the previous discussions and the points made by IGR are in place. And I was trying to make a point on the opportunities and prospects in the mining sector. But beyond that, give a perspective around what has changed and how we are going to approach it, or we must approach, to be able to keep that hope alive. So first off, the structure of this economy has changed. Tilted towards the positive side. For most economies in the world, the way we change, you move from subsistence, they said, into manufacturing, right? So the structure of, and then good service delivery, good services. We were a country that was 60% on average agriculture, but really subsistence agriculture. And you see it when you go up country, when you travel around, the only thing our people do in the villages, they'll sit there, but they go to farms. But they are not farms that are, I'll call it mechanized, productive, and the like. Right. That is changing very phenomenally. 60% agriculture, 7% in the manufacturing, and then we have about 20-something% that was really services. That has shifted. We have now a shift towards manufacturing from 3-fold increase, and then almost double in services, and then you have had the subsistence agriculture shrink. It shrunk, moving towards these other sectors, right? That's an opportunity. That's a shift. Is it transformational? No, that's our responsibility that we have now for the next phase of this country. Let's move towards driving transformational growth, and development. That's what we should be moving towards. Therefore, when he said, what is happening to the structure of your budget, how do you change it? And I thought he was spot on saying, what are we doing about mining sector? I'm saying mining sector is an area for us to focus because we're a mining nation. All the FDI that comes into Sierra Leone, the first point of entry is to go to our mining sites. They all want concessions. And what are they doing? They are moving bulk minerals. We know now what we have than we knew before. We really know what we have. Before now, we did not know that much, but we know now what we have. In every district in this country, we have mineral resources of value. We have critical minerals, we have what they call precious minerals, and then we have bulk minerals. And the scale of those bulk minerals, they are of global scale, where we are potential world players. Whether it's iron ore, whether it's rutile in particular, which I know is along the big swath of this country around the southern belt. Okay, we have iron that is really at scale that should draw our attention. Same so for bauxite, same so for gold. And now we are seeing that we have lithium and other critical minerals. These are attracting the attention of international bilaterals, US and the other, and China and the like. Now, the country has to wake up. Wake up in the sense that our engagement in the mining sector cannot be the same old way we were doing. They come, they take concession, and then they scoop off and carry it away. That has to stop. There must be, then how do you stop it? You stop it through government commercial participation, where we have joint ventures. Joint ventures deliberately done in the way that the state can be assured of effective cash flow beyond taxes, beyond royalties. It's actually equity participation in the flow. You do production sharing, that's what is being done. I met somebody in Malaysia. He said they are done with this since 1976, and I asked him, why are we not doing this? He said, well, you never came to engage with us. I'm just sharing this with compatriots. So we are a mining nation, so mining first. Now here they say diversify. Well, diversify is important. We can diversify away from mining, but you must get mining right. You must get agriculture right, because even to do agriculture, you need to invest in the roads or in the infrastructure that can allow you to move your goods out of the farm or prepare the land properly. But where do you get the money? Mining money can turn around very quickly, depending on the type of mines you want to do. So fix the mining sector, participate in the mining sector, get the taxes effectively done in the mining sector, but beyond taxes, commercial participation. The way to raise money in the banks, it's not with anything. It's proper studies of what you have, good exploration, good feasibility study that give you the bankability of any given mine. That's the document you take to a bank. You don't take money to the bank. You take document to the bank gives you money on the back of what? The resources that should be mined over the life of the mine on an annual basis, done by professionals who are known in the world, has have credibility to go to bank. So that's what the country must do. Now, beyond that, when you do that, then you can harness agriculture. It's the same thing you would take to harness fishery resources. It's the same thing. And it's the same thing you must do to create the opportunity for jobs. So for me, the hopes that I think we must be selling to our people in the next phase, 65 years on, of looking at how this economy must transform and how you shift it. Predictable foreign exchange cash flow that we have control over in the treasury. Because we don't have control over the cash flow that is taking place at foreign exchange. Right now as I speak, most of the big firms, which are in whether pineapple, whether it has to do with palm oil and the like, they are big mechanized farms in the country. But that's private sector driven. So what the government must, and that I encourage, must happen at scale. So what we've been doing as a government is creating clusters
Clusters for agricultural development, where we prepare land, we prepare irrigation. We have 6 clusters in the country. We are funding 2 right now, funded by international partners, where the government de-risk the sector to do what? To attract private sector to come in. The private sector comes in, they bring knowledge, they bring finance, they bring technology. What we do is the government de-risk the sector, and then you can pick it back on even the small holders, Sierra Leoneans, by training them, building and making sure that they feed into the nucleus that has been set up by the sector. So I see an opportunity. Your question is really right sharp on your analysis or even diagnostic of what the problem is and how we must rethink it. That's where it is, and it speaks to the budget. The budget is structured in this way because that's how the economy is structured. It's corporate taxes, or what you call personal income tax and corporate taxes. They are contributing the largest and most predictable. Same so for goods and services, but also trade. That's where we are getting from right now. Do you get from trade enough? No, I don't think so. We can do much more on trade if we can. Exports, invest in the port. Right now we are exporting about $20 million worth of bulk minerals, 20 million metric tons of bulk minerals. Well, if you open your seaport, we are sitting on multiple billions of metric tons of iron ore, for example, or rutile, you name them, or bauxite. All you need to do is increase your export capacity. If you increase your export capacity, you're exporting more than, you export 5-fold. If you have a port that can export 100 million metric tons of bulk minerals, well, you've increased the GDP of a country 5 times within a short period of time. That's something we must look at. But it's beyond that. Add value home. But how do you add value home? If you have the cash flow, you can serve all these things that are required to add value on any product in country, which is energy. It's energy, it's port facility, it's rail, and clear roads that can allow you to have access to farm, but also even have access to these mining sites that we're talking about. So that's the dynamism.
I mean, you've said a lot today, and I strongly believe that the woman in Abacha State, the Keke rider,
good.
They really don't understand much of the jargons of economics and macroeconomy and micro and all that. But realistically, are you pleased with where we are as a country economically at the moment?
I must say yes, but there's a lot much more to do. Because development is a process and a trajectory. We are laying foundations for transformation. It's taken 65 years doing this. But it must be done right, because the foundational investment that has to take place, right? Now, for people in the let's say you call Abacha streets and the like, these are people who are making the small, micro business people. For small, micro business people, it's the environment must be right for doing business. Meaning prices must be stable and low. They must have access to credit at any little space to be able to do their business and eke out their living. We have a lot of informalities in Sierra Leone. That's really even a challenge for us in terms of mobilizing revenues and the like. A lot of informalities. How do you make sure that people move out of informality and come into the formal economy? That's it's a conversation to have. It's a conversation to have. But where we are as a country, these are foundational issues we are laying. Do you blame one government or another or start making it political? I don't think so. Development and economic development is everybody on the deck, hands on the deck approach. That's the way that I see it. One government comes, they do, leave it. If another comes, they must take it to another level, not reverse. This is really the way it must be. And I'll give you an example of why I think that's the case. Take roads. Take roads. After war, government after government, I just came from upcountry. I traversed from Freetown way to the end of Kailan border. Just a couple of days, I took the World Bank guys there, my colleagues who came from the executive board. We were able to reach right the end in Jojoima on tar roads, except when we branched out, okay? That's not one government did, eh? That's something that was done government after government. We're just adding on what others have done. It's the same thing we're doing on energy. It is the same thing we're doing on energy. On energy, they opened Bumbuna, but Bumbuna is hydro, okay? And that reduces the cost of doing business. It's giving us 50 megawatts of power, but for half the year. You must do other investments. So the current government, what are we doing? We're investing in renewable. We just opened, we have about 80 megawatts of power that is renewable power that is hitting into the grid. 40 is hitting into the grid that we just turned up at Newton already. And there is another 40 coming from Scartech in Kamakwe that we hit but you see, that's what was happening. You don't destroy Bumbuna, you add value to Bumbuna, and then you bring others. That's foundational.
Mr. Minister, we know you need to be at State House now, but before we let you go, can I ask you this, please? Is it true that you are running for president to succeed your boss?
Where did you get that from? So let me answer this question very frankly. We are at the pace of transition, and we are in the pace of succession. But President Bio has a couple of years more to go. We are chief advisors to President Bio. He has time to deliver for this nation. He has given us clear guidance on how to manage the transition. That is a process that is unfolding. We are very close advisors to him, trusted people. Has that process, have you started thinking about that? I think there's much more time, in my view, between now up to 2028 to help him deliver, that can give him confidence on who are these people who will take after me. In my view, really, there is time for that. Consultations have to be done. Focus has to be on delivery. We cannot be jumping around wanting to take over the power of the president. How do I call it? Half a period into his second term. I believe there's a period for political discussions. That period will emerge, in my view. And it will emerge when all the stakes have been put in place, and it's comfortable to say the whistle is blown for those who want to take pure advantage of stepping into the shoe. There's a lot of decisions that are made around transition and succession of leaders. I cannot come and, no, let me just land this. Yeah, because I'm under oath. I'm serving the president, and I'm serving his wishes. His wishes are that we focus on delivering on his own goals, all these things he has promised the people. And that's what we are doing right now. So the focus, in my view, for me, is to ensure that we deliver for the president. He will blow the whistle at the appropriate time. And I believe at the appropriate time, the appropriate people will reemerge.
Do you have an intention to run, Fatamadi?
The intentions to run will be determined down the road, in my view. It's not now. We have job to do. And I think there's a lot of job out there to be done. That's why I'm engaging in ensuring that we maintain macro stability, that's one, and ensure that we have the confidence of international partners who will come and ensure that we have access to resources and ensure that this country is properly run. Before we get into the political process, there's always a political process out there, but for now, sincerely, I don't think it's time for that discussion, in my view.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sheku Fatamadi Bangura, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Kewu, for joining us this morning. I'm afraid we do not have time. We'll have to let you guys go as we have other segments to run. But continue to stay with us. You're watching Wakeup Sierra Leone on AYV television. And also, I'm listening to us on radio on FM 101.7. We have a story from, capturing all what we have on the Ministry of Tourism and tourism in general, done for us by Mohamed Bakar Kamal. Let's take that story, and then when we come back, we go into another segment of the show.
Sierra Leone stands at the crossroads, 65 years on, a nation blessed with extraordinary beauty, yet bounded. This is not just a story of tourism, it is a story of preservation versus pressure, of promise versus policy, and its implementation. These images show how promising the newly independent country looked: pristine beaches stretching along the Atlantic, forest breathing life into the land, and a people whose hospitality needed no advertisement. Tourism then was not structured, but it was sincere, an unspoken invitation to the world. But that story would later change. The heartbreak of a bloody civil war in the 1990s shattered not only lives, but the country's image and attraction. Hotels closed, visitors vanished, and the once promising tourism sector collapsed into oblivion. Just as recovery began, with the sector ready to take off again, another blow followed. Ebola. Fear replaced curiosity. Flights slowed. Bookings disappeared. And when the world finally began to reopen, COVID-19 brought global travel to a standstill. Tourism, once again, was paused. Today, tourism is rising again, even if consciously. Government campaigns, private sector investment, and international partners are working to reposition Sierra Leone on the global stage. In recent years, the country has been featured in international travel publications as an emerging destination, often compared to rising tourism cities like the Budapest for its untapped potential and cultural depth. Visitor numbers are gradually increasing, with thousands of arrivals recorded annually, drawing travelers from across West Africa, Europe, and the diaspora.
Sierra Leone tourism sector is steadily finding its voice again.
Come to spend some nice time with friends. Exactly, because I love the place. But I'll warn them and say, no, you need to pay before to go there.
Well, it's been fantastic. I enjoyed everything that is happening here now. It's my first time coming to one of these cultural festivals, but it's like, this is like part of us in Jamaica as well, because we do Jamaican festival as well. So it's a little bit different because only the dishes are a bit different from us. We have different cuisine apart from you guys. But for me, I enjoy everything and I can cook mostly of your dishes as well.
The difference where I see is that now we try to promote more of we local content, where I think it's very good for we in terms of tourism. And also the difference now, like before the independence we go dance like lantern and all this stuff. Probably with the advocate there for letting things when they come back. But I think with what thing they happen now, we still in the same direction, and I think with the aim for higher.
The hospitality sector is responding, hotels reopening, new investments emerging, and local businesses finding renewed hope. At the heart of this revive lies one of the country's most iconic destinations, the Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary, a conservation success story, and one of the most visited ecotourism sites in the country. Takugama has become both a refuge for endangered wildlife and a symbol of what sustainable tourism can achieve. But even here, pressure is mounting, rampant illegal construction, encroachment into protected zones, deforestation creeping closer to conservation areas. Spaces designed to protect wildlife are now being negotiated by concrete and compromise.
This is a problem. It's a serious problem. We are dilly-dallying with it. I don't know what's going to happen. I may not be here to see it, but this is a problem. We are leaving it for our children. All what we are doing is basically let everyone think that person who is doing this dirty thing in the national park, breaching that boundary, let him think it's not for him. It's not for him building the mansion. He's basically he's consistent and he is determined to dig graves for his children.
Minister of Tourism, Nabilia Tunis. Wildlife is under threat. Coastal ecosystems are shifting, and tourism, which depends on nature, is now competing with.
There's been some challenges with a lot of encroachments, and I do know that there are specific rules and laws that are in place which are being enforced right now. But again, it's been quite an uphill task getting people to understand that this is no longer going to happen, or it's no longer going to be accepted within this space. So we're solidly behind the Ministry of Environment, the EPA, the National Protected Area Authority, to see how they would implement and enforce the laws that they do have at their disposal to curb the encroachment. As a ministry, we're happy to come in with those activities that would help to, maintain some level of of movement within this space. So let's assume, I've always been saying that tourism is kind of the strategy to combat environmental degradation and some of these challenges that we're facing within, you know, that space. And I think I spoke about it. In 2020, we had about 15 million. In 2025, which was last year, I think it was estimated at about 47.1 million. Visitors, we've had an increase of visitors from 41,000 in 2020 to about 150,000 in 2025. So those are quite clear indicators. Again, certain reports that have been released, I make special reference to the World Bank report, which stated that the creative economy accounts for about 10% of jobs, and it contributes of about 4.5% to GDP. The last figures we had for the entire tourism industry, I believe it was hovering between 4.5 to 5%. So if the creative industry alone contributes to about 4.5% of our GDP, then you can safely say that it's definitely a lot more than where it was before. But I can't give you a definitive figure because I don't have it. But I can tell you that there's been a marked and significant progress so far.
At 65 years since independence, Sierra Leone is not just celebrating its past, it is confronting its future. A future where tourism must be protected, not just promoted. In a country of undeniable beauty, but whether that beauty endures will depend on what is done next. The government has not been silent. Policies have been drafted, campaigns launched, and Sierra Leone showcased on global platforms. But policy on paper is not always protection on the ground. And so the question remains, can the sector sustain the people if the system cannot sustain the sector? From the overlooked to the unforgettable, from recovery to rediscovery, the story of Sierra Leone is still being written, one visitor at a time. Mohamed Bakar Kamara, AYV News.
Independence Day, Sierra Leone. Now we move to another issue, the issue of governance, which many believe has beset the nation for decades. Not long after independence in 1961, multi-party democracy was compromised. The country's second Prime Minister, Albert Magai, and his SLPP moved to establish a one-party state, which was condemned by the then opposition leader Sheaki Stevens and his APC party.
Yet, Stevens did establish a one-party state when he got elected as Prime Minister. Many historians agree that that decision constricted the space and eroded freedom and justice. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission report cited what happened under the one-party state as reason for the outbreak of the brutal rebel war in the 1990s.
Now, that war killed tens of thousands of Sierra Leoneans and maimed many others. Then there was a military coup that overthrew the one-party regime with help from the regional body ECOWAS led by Nigeria and later the British government and the United Nations. The war ended in 2002.
Even though that has twice been a peaceful transfer of power, concerns are being expressed about the state of affairs, politics in the country. Many say some of the reasons of the rebel war, as catalogued in the TRC report, have never gone away. Monoethnic politics, corruption, youth unemployment, poverty, and the lack of justice and basic social amenities, amongst others.
Here to talk us through it all, we have Francis Gabidon, a senior statesman who has witnessed many things in the country. We also have Lena Thompson, a political science lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone, and Marcella Sambasisi, Executive Director of Campaign for Good Governance. And we also have with us in the studio Dr. Francis Soa. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Happy 65th Independence Anniversary.
Thank you very much.
On a lighter spirit, before we delve into the politics and governance, I'd like each of you to have just a few seconds. As Sierra Leoneans, how do you feel about your country's 65th independence anniversary? We'll start with you.
Well, I feel good in the sense that, one, I'm alive to witness it and to experiment it, because I saw this 1961 independence. I was about to go to secondary school. Yes, there's been a lot of disappointments, but still, on balance, I feel good, because when I see what's happening in our countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, countries which had gone ahead of Sierra Leone are now regressing with all these Russian and all the French problems, jihadists and all that. I think we're lucky. Despite our problems, we're still lucky to have attained 65. 65 years is a long time, although we could have done more. That's all I can say for now.
Yosela?
Well, thank you so much. And a happy one to all Sierra Leoneans. Sierra Leone at 65, I feel hopeful. We've come a long way. You know, there are countries right at the same time we were having the civil conflict. I could still remember Somalia, Sudan, when normally we come on BBC News. Sierra Leone, these were the countries that were trending during this period, but they've still not put the state back on track. We've been able to end the conflict, right? And despite there are challenges around governance, but we are working around a stable state. The Ebola came to this country, right? It brought us our health system to our knees. Came out of it. There have been periods where we think this country was going down, but we were able to brace up and pick it up. And I think that's what we need to celebrate. I don't want to use the word resilience. It has been an overused term, but that is it. We need to hold on to what keeps us together. And I think it is that hope that we are celebrating at 65.
Dr. Sora?
I will use the word my sister Marcella did not want to use. We are a resilient nation. We are a resilient people. And we are definitely and certainly not where we want to be as a nation. That's the fact. But again, I join her and Pakabidon in saying that I'm also very optimistic. We are confident. We are hopeful that we'll get to the state and position we want to be as a nation.
Lena?
Yes, well, I'm kind of a mixed bag. Every birthday you reflect on the year gone by and you hope for the future. So it's the same thing for me. We have to reflect on what has gone by. We have to face that reality. We have to address that reality. But at the same time, I see a lot of hope in the sense that with younger people especially, there's a lot of creativity coming along, and I hope that will be sustained as we move ahead.
Gabidon, you're one of the people here who witnessed through the independence session. You were around then. Tell us, what was the...
About 11.
Tell us what was the atmosphere back then in 1961.
Oh, yes.
What was the atmosphere in the country as Sierra Leone journeyed through to independence?
Unbelievable. One, we were very united. That's number one. Sierra Leoneans were together. Number two, despite our size, we were one of the few countries in Africa to have attained independence at that time. When you look at the time that countries like Nigeria, Zambia, and others, Sierra Leone was ahead. As I was saying earlier on, you were not here. We were ahead. It was the rebel war that virtually destroyed the country. That's number two. Number three, when I look back, I remember the Duke of Kent when he came, driving along the streets. Everybody was waving. We had the flag, Sierra Leone, the British flag. We were happy to see Sierra Leone now. Our flag was going up. The British flag was coming down. We were taken to then they called it recreation grounds. Was it Recre or something like that, Brookfield Sword. And we were excited. Although we did not really know in the true sense what was independence. We know that we are now going to be a free nation. There were certain benefits that we have to work hard. And Sir Milton Magai, blessed memory, I've always said it's a pity he died so early, because the way he started and what he had done, even during that short period, was such that this country could have gone far beyond what we had. I feel that his death really affected our country. These are for the historians. I'm not a historian. But the short period he was there was unity. He was a simple man. There was no question of corruption. People wanted 10 cars, 6 villas. And in fact, he used to drive himself. I tell people, you will not know that he's passed with his vehicle. It was a beautiful period. But we all expected a lot. Education was good. It was ranked that Sierra Leone and South Korea and Malaysia were about the same. Fobe College was fantastic. There are many people from Nigeria and Ghana there. Njala also had its own. You go up country as well, Gunubu, all these other places. Health facilities was good. Quite a number of operations which we now send people to Ghana. We had done here, we had first-class surgeons. A lot of them left this country after the war. We had brilliant surgeons, good hospitals, medicines. We did not have everything, but the future, the prospect was fantastic. If anybody had told me that the corner would be turned the other way, I would not believe, because we were ahead, as far as I know. Look at the figures, look at the facts, Sierra Leone was going ahead. And we have the people. My friend has just said, although Marcella said she will not use the word resilience. In fact, it's our resilience that has carried on us so far. Because if it was other countries, they would have collapsed by now. What we've gone through, COVID and all that, Sierra Leone, there's something about us. We get to the brink, as President Kabah said in his book, near the brink, and then we come up again. And I don't want us to go back near the brink and come up again. This time, we should just go ahead. I love this country, otherwise I've had so many offers. When I go to conferences, I have colleagues, some of them are multimillionaires in Nigeria, riding private jets. I said, what happened to Sierra Leone? I said, well, we're not getting money, we're not getting. But then, of course, you could see that as a problem. But this country has had a start, and that was what I was talking about earlier on. That start is what propelled us. And if we have to continue this country and we continue that start, it's a pity we lost 1 or 2 people. I won't call their names who were heads of state. I don't want to politicize it. Sierra Leone would have gone far ahead. But the war damaged this country. It's really damaged us. And we've not taken stock of the damage. People just say schools, churches. No, it was beyond that. Look at the number of Sierra Leoneans who left. Do we know the number of top surgeons? Surgeons, for example, who left Sierra Leone. It's only now they're retraining our surgeons again. Good lawyers. I'm not talking about the nearly 1 million of us who are dancing all over the place, calling themselves lawyers. Solid lawyers who are now practicing in other countries, in top positions worldwide. Sierra Leone is a country that is blessed. We've got a lot. That Governor Clarkson's prayer says a lot. I was lucky. I was born at the right time. I'm still alive. I saw a few things which gives me hope, and I believe
Sorry, Carl, go see some business partners.
You didn't give me money, Michael. Can if I can say, you hear me where this can people in no twin dandy. Today you pay me money. I don't send it for let you help me send money in Ghana. 2 weeks now, you not send me money and 10 you not give me back me money. Today, Kide give me money.
You know ever sabi goodness na life. I send back your money, but trust me, today na the very last day. I ever
find their own strategy of achieving that vision. And I think we've lacked that. And we've lacked that because our political system has been very checkered in the sense that we had a multi-party system, and then we had coups, we've had succession of coups which did not help us. And then and then we had the war, and in between the war we had economic stagnation and all that. So we've been through a lot. The system, the political system that we have did not help us. It was meant to help us. Even when we talk about the one-party state, the reason for one of the factors for implementing a one-party state is to build a nation. If you remember, when we gained our independence, that nationhood did not, the sense of nationhood was not there. So it was to give us a national identity and so forth.
Did we go into independence divided?
I would, obviously there were different, it was united in the sense that we wanted independence. But obviously there were different opinions. There were some people who did not want independence as yet. And this is still a question. Were we ready for independence? Because when you talk about independence, it's not about only creating the structures. The structures have to be strong enough in order to propel a nation. But it also means a self-identity. As a Sierra Leonean, who are we? What makes us unique? I said that before. So were we ready? Were we mature enough? Because when you talk about democracy, you have to look at the maturity of your democracy. Everybody has to buy into it. And at that point, were we ready? And that's why when our leaders united in saying that yes, we wanted independence. Who doesn't want to be independent? Okay, who wants to be subjugated by the West? We still are. But at the same time, we needed to have a vision of where Sierra Leone had to go. And not only Sierra Leone, but also when we look at the bigger picture, Africa as well. Because Sierra Leone is not in isolation. We look at our region and we look at the whole of Africa. We have a problem in Africa. And other regions of the world are moving ahead. Why is Africa still in this state of I don't know if it's transformation, but trying to be in that state. So we have to really look at our political system. We tinker with it. We tinker with it. Obviously, you have to. It's not static. As society grows, as we change, we have to adapt as well. But when we look at ourselves, we need to look at ourselves where we are, where we want to go to, and so forth. There are too many delays. How could you take 20 years of doing a constitutional review? What does that say about us? You know, because you're trying to put things in place to ensure that our constitution is reflective of the realities of society. But if we take 20 years of doing that, how is our reality? How does that constitution help us now? So these are the things that we should be looking at in terms of how we move ahead and how our political system can best serve our needs.
Madam Thompson, the one-party state system has been cited by many as one of the reasons why we are where we are now. But if we were to do a comparative analysis, what we enjoyed or benefited or suffered from under the one-party state and what we're enjoying or benefiting or suffering from under the democratic tenets that we have now, what would be the comparative analysis? I know some Sierra Leoneans are still of the opinion that we achieved more as a one-party state than we're achieving now, but that argument can't.
Under the one-party space, the space for free speech was stifled. Okay, elections were basically.
Is it still guaranteed now?
Well, that is why in a democratic system, we hold those responsible. We hold them accountable. Okay, at least we have that freedom. The space, the CSO space, the civil society space is shrinking, but at least it's still there. under the one-party state, it was not there.
There was no space.
There was no, exactly. So there's no absolute anywhere. We take here take from there, take from there. But I hope that Sierra Leoneans would know that under the current democratic system, that multi-party democratic system that we have, is that we are much more we are much more confident in addressing issues, and we are much more we are able to hold people to task, even though it might be difficult. But under that one-party state, it was not. Everybody had to kind of coerce into that structure. But features of our one-party state is
that's what I wanted to ask. Are we still living in the shadows of the one-party state?
Living in the shadows of the one-party state. You know, we uphold the leader is the be-all and the end-all, even though parliamentary legislature should have much more say, much more power, much more actually power. But what we see is that there sometimes, because it's the majority party, it's kind of in connivance with the presidency. So all these things have legacies, and it's part of our political culture as well. It's how we see ourselves, it's how we socialize ourselves. As I say, in terms of the one party, the aspect of it where you build in a nation, trying to build a nation identity, it's quite good. It's quite good, but on the part of governance, it's totally different.
Will the new constitution help with that, or are we still living in the embedded political culture that we practice?
Constitutions, as society change, constitutions have to address the realities of society. That's how amendments are made and so forth and so forth. So I don't think a new constitution is probably needed, but it's a constitution that would address some of the issues that we see arriving today and so forth.
Let's pick your brain on democracy. Mostly when we talk about the state of our democracy, you'll find people who would put an argument forward that it's the democracy itself, the kind of democracy that we practice, that needs to be tweaked. What do you think about the democracy we practice? Is it apt for our nation, or does it need to be tweaked?
It's a process. You know, we are coming from a situation of, as I said, where people didn't have that much freedom. So when you unleash these freedom on people, some people take advantage of that. And so in any country, even if we look at the United States now, it's going through its own crisis of democracy at the moment. So we have to put it into context. What is our own context? What is good, what is bad, and what can we take and what can we leave? So it's when we put it into our context and it works for us, but it's a process of democratization. It's not, it's a means to an end, and we all have to buy into it. The problem most of us see, and because of where we've come from, is that people don't necessarily, it's lip service, they pay lip service to democracy, do not necessarily buy into the tenets of democracy. But in our own context, we have to ensure that those tenets are ingrained and embedded in us, embedded in every person here, and that goes back not only those at the top, but also the average person, the average man, the schools. If we talk about, and it all goes with democracy, I have an observation. When we do the independence, this independence thing, okay, we all wear the green, white, and blue, but what does that really say about us? What activities happen nationally in schools about independence? What pride is there? So all of these things that we have to put into context and find our own, we massage it so that it works for us, so that at the end of the day, come next year, there'll be some pride in it that yes, we are still here, we are still resilient. I don't like that word as well. We're still resilient. It's not only that we're surviving, but we are also transforming. And that goes with our political system as well.
But as we transform, we would have to let you go in a bit. But as we round off with you, what would be your recommendation for Sierra Leone going forward? The point of having these conversations is to diagnose the problem where it is and come up with possible solutions as to how we get to where our visions lead us for a better Sierra Leone. What could be your recommendation?
I think the most important, you're asking a question that you would write a thesis on. Seriously, for me to put it in 2 seconds or whatever. But I think one of the main things of democracy is tolerance. We have to be able to be tolerant of each other. We have to be able to have dialogue without it descending into violence. We have to be able to see each other as brother and sister. When we start seeing ourselves as compatriots, as brothers, as family, our political system will change. And sometimes I say to people, go to Parliament and see how the parliamentarians act amongst themselves, between themselves, the SLPP and the SLPP. You would not know which one is SLPP and which one is APC. So we have to be able to export that into the general populace. We have to be able to be tolerant, to be able to speak truth to power. Our problem in Sierra Leone is that we hide things. We don't want to talk about things because we don't know what would happen. They say there is freedom of speech, but you don't know if there is freedom after speech. And so all those things, those tenets of democracy have to be put in place in order for us to actually move forward. And I hope we do.
Thank you very much, Lena, for your time with us this morning. We'll let you go now, but we'll continue the conversation. Marcella, what do you think is right and wrong with our politics?
The
entire body of our politics.
What is right and what is wrong? In fact, I'll start with what is wrong. I'll definitely start with what is wrong, because understanding the problem would give you a leeway to know what the solutions are. If you fail to dissect the problem accurately, you'll definitely not know how to fix it. Unfortunately, throughout the period of independence since 1961, we've not been able to find a strategic vision for this country, right? Where, for example, collectively we'll own a shared vision and say this is what we want as a nation. So when we have a shared vision, right, irrespective of where you see it, because that's the very essence of governance, irrespective of where you see it, you can contribute collectively to that shared vision. So when somebody is elected into office, whether as the president of the state, whether as a parliamentarian, or into the local council, there is a national vision, a shared vision that that individual is contributing to, and all Sierra Leoneans know that that is the trajectory and that is the way we want to go. But unfortunately, what we have is patchwork of promises, right? And at this stage, governance has become too attractive. And when governance is attractive, what you'll have is fierce competition. The fierce competition is not to contribute to that shared vision that I'm talking about. The fierce competition is to access resources, access opportunity, and use governance as, you know, a platform for social mobility. So somebody who was literally a community send around young man in 5 years now is transformed. What is the message that person is sending to his community? That you need to make your way into governance, and then all those benefits will be accorded to you. So that is very wrong. Understanding that the very essence of governance is to make opportunities for the citizens. The second point, Fabian, is the sheer, almost non-existence of a professional class. And that's what, you know, Lena talked about looking at our own realities. And that's the saddest part of our governance at the moment, a lack of professional class. People who you think, I mean, these are lawyers, these are medical doctors, teachers, people who are educated and have darkened, you know, the corridors of university. When you hear them speak, when they go to the corridors of power, you begin to wonder what difference can these people bring to society. And then the third issue is the party-state conflation. You cannot see governments and political party any longer. So the political party in power has the kind of appearance that, no, I am running this country for my political party and not for Sierra Leoneans.
As you make that case, let's assess the role of the people, the ordinary citizenry in all of this. Have they been helpful or destructive? I ask from the perspective that not long ago we had even Chenoba, Minister of Information and Civic Education, and he said he doesn't entirely agree with people painting a picture that there's the APC, there's the SLPP, and the people. There is the APC and the SLPP, and they are also constituted of the very people of Sierra Leone. But what role do you think the ordinary citizenry have contributed to the situation that we're in?
I think that's the mistaken belief, you know, and that's the problem with the duopoly in the States. You see, after the 2023 elections, we actually literally reduced this country to a two-party state, what we call a duopoly in governance, and that's the mistaken belief. So every other person thinks that the only thing we have in this country is these two political parties. No, we have free thinkers. As I sit here, I'm a free thinker. Right? We have people in this country who have voted for both political parties over the years. We have people who have never voted for any of those two political parties. So for somebody, that's the thing I'm talking about, the role of the professional class, right? To be able to, get into governance and see things from a professional point of view, to be able to analyze things and understand that this country is not about these two political parties, right? We should be able to know what I started off with to talk about the shared vision, what the shared vision is, and how, because that is what good governance is. Good governance is not about government. It is about how all the critical interlocutors of state citizens' relationship, whether the government officials, whether the elected representatives, the media, civil society, and ordinary citizens. How do traditional leaders inclusive, how do all of us come together to, to make change happen within the states? That is what good governance is all about. So your question to say, how are citizens featured in all of this? Unfortunately, the citizens have been the greatest cheerleaders of bad governance. They have been clapping for political parties that are wrongfully, doing things that's otherwise bringing this country to its knees. The citizens, because they have to live anyway, they have settled for less, and they have settled for handouts. The citizens have to get the required knowledge and stance to be able to determine. That's the whole essence of independence, self-determination, to determine what they want as ordinary citizens. In recent times I've been in...
How can they do that when it seems our definition of loyalty as a country is when I support you, whether you're right or wrong? How do we change that narrative to get to a point where citizens can still support their political parties or politicians they choose, but still hold them accountable? How can that happen?
In fact, they are not supporting their political parties. What they are supporting is their special interests, because they believe that I have seen in this, I've been in the political space for the last 25 years. I've seen notable personality in this country crisscrossing these parties, because what they want is how close they get to satisfy their own interests. And that is what trickles down to the ordinary citizen. They think how close they are will definitely benefit them. And you see, there is this notion that when my kind is in power, it's also access for my kind, and that is where the problem is. So, we have to live with the consequence. Water, healthcare, electricity, education. Zero. Because why? Those in power are no longer, governance is about delivery. They are no longer delivering on behalf of the citizens. What they are delivering is handouts. They're delivering handouts to themselves and their cronies. And that is the mentality over time that we have lost as a country. And those who dare like myself to speak, we are now under serious criticism, serious attacks, and serious online bullying. Because why? This kind of knowledge base, this kind of information empowers. They know that when you use this information to empower, they will definitely not get what they want. And Fabian, just the last point, you see, those of, it's sad though, that those who otherwise were sitting in the same corridors as us, right, as civil society members or as media practitioners, they are now in the political space and they are creating all sorts of narratives, you know, that are undermining the very essence of what good governance is. Good governance is about how does government manage the affairs of the state, how does government manage the resources, and how does government respect the rights of citizens. So when you are assessed from those parameters and then you get people sitting in critical position and saying, oh, those assessments are assessments of the opposition. The opposition makes the largest, percentage of those outside governments. The opposition is also part of civil society. The opposition is part of citizens. How can you say you are running a democratic state and you don't want to listen to opposition? You don't want to listen to criticism. You don't want to cooperate to build, a reconciliatory state. So it's very, very difficult. So these are the problems that are affecting us. And until we understand that, if we want to see the transformation we are talking about, we'll be counting the years. Next year is 66. By the time you know it is 70 years. But if we want to see the transformation, it's not going to be business as usual. It has to be transformative. We really need to put that vision. In fact, one of the things I am actually thinking about is to get a parliament that would understand now the solutions, what can be done, is to get a parliament to understand that we should legislate for national development. So that when we have a roadmap, whoever is coming to power will contribute to that roadmap. Right? Even if it's 5%, then we'll be able to assess. Last time, the government that was in power contributed 5% to this overall national agenda. Now, what would we have the succeeding government do? The next one will bring it up to 10%. So we really need to have serious and genuine conversation about the country we so cherish. Any other place to go. We are all looking so beautiful in our green, white, and blue this morning. Can we have a vision of the sweet salon that we desire? I think we need the genuine conversation in all corridors, right? And not just on spaces of this nature.
Now, after 65 years of independence, Sierra Leone still struggles with the provision of clean drinking water, protection of water catchment areas, and enforcement of law that protect the country's water resources remain a challenge. My colleague Emmanuel Nyake Momo has been looking at the issues and sent us this report.
Clean water and sanitation is Global Sustainable Development Goal 6 by 2030. Adequate and affordable water is one of the major indicators of good governance in any state, and Sierra Leone is not an exception. The Global Development Goal states that access to safe and dignified water, sanitation, and hygiene is the most basic need for health and well-being. Hence, the demand for water is rising owing to rapid population growth, urbanization, and the increasing water needs for agriculture, industry, and energy sectors.
We're struggling for water. The resources are not available at all. During the dry season, we are often here from 1 to 2 a.m. to fetch water. This is really affecting us in this community. During the day, we struggle for water, and even at night. The security of girls is really challenging. Trying to fetch water at odd hours is very risky for us, the women. We have wells, but this cannot cater to the entire population of this community.
Here in Sierra Leone, rekindling the clocks of time since 1961, where are we in water governance as a country?
The term itself, water governance, is big, but if we want to put it in context, we know this is how we generate and supply water for people in the places where water is needed. And so in terms of its governance, we look at from 1960, I want to segment this into phases. So we talk about from 1961 to 1980s. At this time, the water governance was state-led. There are few pipes that were very limited. Access to water was mainly led by the state. But it comes to the time when we saw that the governance of water changed, especially in 1988, when the Sierra Leone Water Company was established, wherein tariffs were placed on getting water. And so this continued, but we had a relapse from 1991 to 2002 when we had the Civil War. All the infrastructures that were built during the colonial time to that point all got destroyed and devastated. But coming back to from 2010 to now, we also saw that there are lots of state revamping of institutions, especially in terms of water governance. We saw lots of other institutions being established, like the National Water Resource Management Agency, NWRMA, and we also see other institutions that help in water governance. So when we talk about water governance, it's not about just the availability of water, but it's also talk about the access to getting water. So these put in context, especially for areas like Freetown, where we are right now, we see that the population has grown exponentially and the availability of water is becoming thinner and thinner.
Adequate water facility is one of the major indicators of governance in Sierra Leone. This place is a hub for strategic areas in the western area. This is the major source where the water is stored at the moment, and from this particular axis, it has to supply millions of people living within the west end of Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown.
One of the workers of this Guma Valley Water Reserve speaks out the beans on impending challenges.
They might say they can get challenge, even sometimes they can stop. Now find out saying that two jet but wait and they stop. They try this.
We face serious challenges with the machines here at this Guma Valley Reserve in Wilberforce. We even face challenges of energy supply. We are also under serious pressure here. The water from the dam is not enough to serve the entire population in this part of the country.
Accountability and transparency in the water sector should not be thrown into oblivion. Adequate budgetary allocation and judicious use of public funds are key indicators of good governance in this sector. The Water Resource Oversight Committee in Parliament has a pivotal role in tackling corruption, ensuring that there is adequate water regulatory system in Sierra Leone's water governance.
I am here to talk to the Honorable Abdul Karim Kamara, who is the chairperson or the head of the Water Resource and Sanitation Oversight Committee in Parliament, to gauge his own view on water governance from 1961 to now. What are we doing in terms of ensuring that there is accountability and transparency currently in Sierra Leone's water sector?
It goes beyond just oversighting, but also it goes to a long way calling government to give enough resources to the agencies responsible for water. I'll tell you one sad thing I came to note when we were going about our oversight, that even in Western area, all, I mean not even one, all government hospitals in Western area depend on water bouncer to get them water. So the availability of water in those health sector is a challenge. The availability of water even in the home of the president, which is the state lodge, is a challenge. Even in Parliament here, we depend on water bouncer. It's a challenge. So there are huge challenges ranging all sectors of society are struggling for the water crisis.
Let's talk about the budgetary allocation that you've just spoken about. Let's look at transparency and accountability in the water sector. Based on your oversight perspective, how would you like to describe that particular aspect?
Well, funnily, yes, there are challenges because as I speak, we still have a situation of even, well, this is one thing I think I have spoken about lengthily as a chairman of oversight, water resources. One of the challenges we have is we have government institutions owing Goma huge amounts of money. And when we resume recently, we'll be summoning them to come to Goma to give us, because when we get them to come here during the appropriation period in November, they will tell you they've paid all those bills. If you see in their matrix, they will present to Parliament, they will tell you we've paid Goma, we've paid EDSA, we've paid this out of the allocations, and yet still they've not paid. So I have engaged with the Ministry of Finance and key sector players that one thing we need to do is this institution, owing government institution, depriving them from running themselves and running the basic things they need. It's just a matter of saying, okay, from source, we cut the budget from source. I think if we do it that way and allocate those monies to Goma Valley, because again, most of the institutions, Goma, that are benefiting from Goma are government institutions. So if they don't pay those bills, how do you expect Guma to run? On the area of allocations, even the budgetary allocations to Guma cannot even build 2 dams in a year.
What about fundings from donors? Are these institutions not having partners, for example, coming in to support them financially for them to run their business?
I have said, well, seriously, the accountability problem within the water sector is not like the one in EDSA, where they say, oh, people don't pay, they don't manage the resources well. In this sector, it is actually the situation of people not paying their bills, most of government institutions. So it's not like where you talk about shady deals and where you talk about inavailability of funding due to a mismanagement of the institutions. So that's not it. Here we have a situation in which people are not paying, government institutions are not paying bills, and we don't have enough reservoir to keep the water during the rains, so we can utilize that during the dries.
Since 1961, several efforts have been made in Sierra Leone's water governance, but one thing that is very clear is the need for a better water resource management, protection of water catchment areas, and enforcement of laws that protect the country's water resource to promote availability of safe and dignified water facility as one of the major benchmarks of good governance in the country. Emmanuel Nyakemomo, AYV News, Freetown.
Thanks to Emmanuel Nyakemomo there. Well, to get the ministry's perspective, we're joined by Augustine Amara, the head of Rural Water Supply and Sanitation. Good morning, Mr. Amara. Good morning. Welcome to AYV.
Yeah, good morning.
Mr. Amara, as you saw in that report, the situation of clean water, remains a dream for many people, even in the capital, Freetown. What does the ministry have to say to this?
Yeah, water challenge is it's serious in the city and even in rural communities. But like the ministry has done so much. One, they've signed treaties. They are currently working with the World Bank. They've developed the Wash Sector Development Program. They've developed Compact, and World Bank is currently supporting the ministry with 180 million USD in 3 phases. Phase 1 is purely for Freetown, that they really want to achieve 100% coverage. And there are projects, particularly for Freetown, and then looking at the Water Resources Management Agency. They equally have some amount in protecting our catchment. And on the Guma Valley Water Company, they have this project line known as prioritization of investment in urban water supply. And Guma is commanding, out of the $40 million, Guma is commanding $23 million. And then Guma is expected, one, to increase the dam, the Guma Dam, by 2 meters. And then they are equally to provide smart domestic meter, about 42,000. And they are equally to do reservoirs within the city, which will provide 60 million cubic, for the people of Freetown. And the compact equally has been escalated. Now the World Bank that are in to support in achieving the 100% coverage had brought this initiative of Water Forward initiative, where they are like saying, we are not the only people to support the sector, because this is the sector we think had been neglected for quite too long. And now they are partnering with other financial institutions to support the sector. They are thinking of raising like 1 billion if we are to hit the SDGs 6 by 2030.
When will that happen, Mr. Amara? When? The question is when?
No, well, currently, that's what I'm saying. The World Bank has committed 180. So the World Bank is equally collaborating with other development financial institutions to support the ministry in raising this 1 billion we are talking of. Because they had to look at the capacity. We know that most of our water infrastructures have aged, are of aged. And most of them are not that efficient in providing the service that they are supposed to provide. Always we are with this excuse that Freetown has grown so big, Guma won't be able. But now there are several, even like for the African Development Bank, they've supported Guma Valley in harvesting runoffs, rainwater, because we have huge chunk of that one going into the ocean and all the rest. So they have supported Guma, and Guma is currently at the end of completing that project. So there are several efforts, not only like for the water supply management, but we are equally doing so much in water demand management. That's the reason why we've asked the National Water Resources Management Agency to develop their master plan. Because you see, Guma, when they had this master plan, that's the reason why they have the investment and more for Freetown. So if the agency equally develop their own master plan, then that one will create room for more investment in protecting catchment. And we've started seeing that one because the ECOWAS are currently seeking to support the ministry in protecting our catchment. A lot deforestation, catchment encroachment, exposing water bodies, areas where we used to have water, those areas, all the water, they've disappeared. So we are in all of those processes. It's really challenging, but we are in all of the engagement and equally seeking more partnership, not only for the infrastructure, but equally for protecting the catchment, protecting the ecosystem, and strengthening the institution, building capacity.
Amara, we'll come back to you if we've got time. Please continue to stay with us. Now, one of the pillars of good governance is the media. And in Sierra Leone, The fourth estate, as it is also called, is struggling. The survival of traditional media is under threat. There is the much talked about media poverty, but there is also corruption in the sector, which makes many practitioners ignore the truth. So, to help us look at the media, past and present, we're joined in the studio by Dr. Francis Soa, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies at Furabe College. And he's also head of the Media Reform Coordinating Group, MRCG. Also in the studio, we have Edward Kagbu, the Country Director for BBC Media Action. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Morning.
Let's assess, Edward, I'll start with you. Describe the current state of the media in Sierra Leone.
What the country did, I did the media day.
That's a vivid point.
Yeah, in very simple terms. I mean, there are several levels, of analysis which I would come to, but I think an important starting point is we've been talking about reflecting, a lot on Independence Day. So a very good starting point is to look at where the media is and as that relates to where the country is, because the media does not exist in a vacuum or somewhere, on another planet. We all Salon people that they work at the media, people who own media businesses, and we operate within a certain environment. So, I mean, simply speaking, the challenges that we face in the media are largely a reflection of where we are as a country. And it is also important that we remind ourselves that the media that we're talking about is very, very old, older than independence. You're talking about, you can go as far back as the 1800s. The Royal Gazette and Sierra Leone Advertiser, I think it's 1817, if I'm not mistaken. And then other newspapers came after that, and then broadcasting with the broadcasting service, and so on. So we're talking about a very, very old sector or industry, if you like. A lot has changed, to be honest. We have at the individual level, you have brilliant journalists who just want to do their job, to hold power to account and produce and disseminate public interest media. But then there are also challenges, because people don't have the environment that supports them to produce the quality journalism that they would like to produce. And this is not to say that everyone in the media is the same levels of skills, same motivation, it all varies, right? But apart from the individual level of analysis, you also would like to look at the institutions, the outlets. They also have their own challenges. There has been progress on some fronts. There are lots of challenges. Fabian just mentioned what we call media poverty in Sierra Leone. And I always say that when we say media poverty, we're talking about the individual journalists who struggle to get the news out there, but the people who own and run media are fairly okay, when you compare what probably the life they live, and you compare that to the average reporter who actually goes out there and gets the job done. But that is a different conversation, because we've been talking a lot about how we can improve the working conditions of journalists. And then there's also the sector, because you cannot talk about the outlets, talk about the individual journalists or people who work in the media, because not just the journalists. You have your camera people here, you have the people that you don't see. You also have to look at the sector, the industry within which the individual media workers and the outlets operate. There are also challenges. You don't have the sort of market in Sierra Leone that would support media viability, which is why we try to look at other solutions and other ways of supporting media to be viable. Because the old advertising model, as we've all seen, has just collapsed. You have big tech now sucking up a lot of the ad. You have social media platforms also sucking that up. You have the emergence of influencers and bloggers. So the small tea will be there for media, you get for Shib now, with all them people in there, and Google takes its fair share. Facebook takes its fair share. Some businesses would now decide or choose to advertise directly on Google, directly on Facebook, and not come to AYV. They don't need you. So there's a challenge with that. So there are three levels. I mean, where we are now, as I said, is a reflection of where we are as a people, as a country. But then the media has its own complexities, which I've just broken down at those three levels of analysis.
We'll come right back to you, Dr. Soa. You've been involved at the MRCG level in the training of journalists across the country. What would you say needs to be done at this current stage to sort of improve the contributions of the media in society?
I will land on the lips of Edward. And this is a fundamental mistake a lot of people make when they talk about media, thinking that the media operates in isolation. The media is exclusive of society. That is a fundamental mistake. So what can we do in the media? It's not a question as to what we'll do within the media, but this is a broader governance discussion. That's why I'm happy we're here with governance experts. We are told in media studies, as you know, Fabian, that the press takes the form and coloration of society. The press takes the form and coloration of society. The media system reflects the economic, political, social, and cultural realities of society, which is why the very media poverty you talked about, Professor Richard Barry of blessed memory has argued, and he put it like Edward said, it is because the state is poor that the media is poor. It is because the state is corrupt that the media is corrupt. So all of the things we talk about in the media, the unprofessionalism, the issues around accountability, these are reflective of what happens within the state. So you are talking about training. We are not short of training. No matter how we train people, if the political system, the economic realities, the social realities are not addressed in Sierra Leone, to a very large extent, we'll be wasting our time. So it is a bigger question. You know, coming here this morning, I woke up when I got this invite. I flipped back to Bernadette Cole's book on mass media, freedom and democracy. With your permission, I would just like to go through some few sentences in that book, written in 1995. And then we ask ourselves whether anything had substantially changed. For instance, she said in that book, another major problem facing the mass media in Sierra Leone is economic in nature. The mass media are operating against the background of a poor economic climate in the country. The scenario includes massive foreign debt burden, diminishing financial resources, low levels of income, and a deteriorating standard of living, persistent scarcity of foreign exchange, and the bitter structural adjustment programs. These problems have taken their toll on the mass media. Second, there's insufficient investment in private sector to launch modern media organizations. And then she also argues at that point that erratic electricity supply from the country's main power supply systems due to technical breakdown of the very old power generators is another major problem and constraint. The poor economic climate in the country has also taken its toll on broadcasting. The transmitting stations and studios are in a poor state of despair, and so forth and so on. I read this thing this morning, and that's why, like I said, why my sister does not like to talk about years ago. We are. 1995, that's like 20, is it 20 or 30?
Close to 30, 29 or 30 years now.
Over 30 years ago.
And we're still having those problems.
This book was written 30 years ago. So going back to your question, that's why when she said, oh, we have overused that word, I perfectly agree with her, my sister Marcella. But that's just the reality. So you ask the question, how did we even survive as a media 30 years down the line with these descriptions which are still here? So what can we do? I repeat, this conversation
has to be done within the broader governance framework, which is why if we have time later, Edward will tell you that we are looking at the entire media ecosystem, which involves addressing governance, management, the entire ecosystem, including how we progress as a nation. Otherwise, this media will continue to be a reflection of society.
As we look at going to address all those problems, let's quickly take perhaps a step to the side. It's the same media, the journalists, that would come, we have conversations to call out police officers who are corrupt, who try to justify their corruption with the meager income they receive. It's the same media that would publish or broadcast stories of medical practitioners who involved in corruption, simply justifying that by the poor state of condition of service for them. It's the same media platforms we use to call out politicians who are involved in corruption. Is there a justification for the same media now to carry itself in unprofessional standards simply because of these challenges and problems?
No, there is no justification. The same way we do not justify those acts you have highlighted. In fact, what makes it worse is that it is the failure of the media to turn the searchlights to ourselves. So it is not enough to question the police officers, the politicians, the civil society organizations. We also have to turn the searchlight to ourselves. He made a point, and I agree with him 100%, that even this poverty we talk about will be at the level of the institutions. But even some of us, or some of our colleagues who manage media institutions, if you look at their own, their lifestyle, what they've got through unprofessional means, not serving the public's interest, but the vested interest. So the point we are making is, we are not saying that the reflection of societal realities on the media, that's the picture. But that does not justify any act. For instance, that is why even Professor Richard Bayo, when he was alive, when we engaged in some academic discussions, when he brought in the concept of media poverty, I also raised the question of unaccountability. That I believe that whereas there is poverty, there's also a level of accountability within the media space. To a very large extent, some of our colleagues are not accountable. So in fact, I have argued that even the meager resources, the small amount of resources we get within the media, if we use it and manage it well, we'll do better. So Fabian, I agree with you, there is no justification for corruption. There is no justification for any illegal act. But what we are saying here today, it is the reality on the ground. The reality is that, again, what we should learn, if people, you see, these politicians we talk about, or powerful business interests, when they come to the media, what happens, what obtains in the media, to a very large extent, they themselves are part of the problem. But then as media practitioners, we have our job. We know what we're supposed to do. But the economic reality, the broader governance issues, I continue to repeat, if we don't address them, then we cannot expect the media to be a saint amongst hundreds of devils. I'm not sure that will be the way to go.
Dr. Soa, you're also providing training for journalists, you know, working also on reform, you know, in MRCG. I want to know, is something wrong with the teaching of media? You know, because when you talk of the teaching, it's not just the qualification. It's not just teaching people how to ask questions or how to look for stories, but the ethics itself. Do you think that's lacking? Because you train students from the university and they come down, you put them into the system, they become corrupt as well.
So you have just again alluded to my point, because we have a corrupt society. So this is a broader governance issue we're talking about. If they come into a society where there is integrity, if they come to a society where there is people uphold the truth, then you don't expect them to be unethical. But again, let me also take it further. Ask the question, go to Jala, Lincoln Queen, Lixa, Fobe College. How many students who are actually trained in media, in fact, eventually come into media work? Few of them. A number of them have said, you go to work for a media institution, they don't pay you salaries, they give you an ID card, go and fend for yourselves. So what they do, if you go to that same work by Bernadette Cole, she also made the point that way back in 1995, that people were going into development communication work, we are going into public relations work, because where the money, that's where the money is. Again, they also go to those institutions. For instance, if I go to work at any UN organization as a development communication officer, Those are systems that are largely organized. So you see career path, you see career growth, you see some level of seriousness.
Dr. Sowa and everyone in the studio, I am so sorry to cut this conversation. Would have to. The independence event at State House is beginning now. So we would have to join State House, the team there at State House, to follow what's going on at State House as the president has arrived.
I have to leave. I'm tired.
On an instrument of 10 strings. Sing unto him a new song. Play skillfully